are you?
Yep, that's it. Miller
You know what? I'll try to bring you back some fish.
and Moulton.
Okay, you drop it off at the front door.
Probably in the mailbox. We'll pack ice.
Broadcasting live from the Kobe Cooling Remote Studios, where it's always cool and comfortable.
Oh, I like
It's up to you now. It's up to you.
I like it.
Now, the best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday morning. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Streaming once again at millerandmoulton.com. Broadcasting live once again on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. Mark, top of the morning to you. How are you?
I'm good. Got a good night's sleep last night. Feel refreshed.
That's good.
I mean, as you know, you had your invitation before 5:40. I mean, you pretty much, I think, can tell now when you open your email almost to what kind of night I had.
That is true, unless you're faking it. Unless by chance you stagger up at 5:30 and before you jump in the shower, you decide to send me the email to give the impression as if you have your you-know-what together.
Yeah, and David, I can tell you, after the amount of time and years we've spent together, I'm not doing that. Oh, good God. That's not happening. I'm not taking any unnecessary trips up the stairs until I absolutely have to in the morning.
That is true. You do have to go up the stairs to do this.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah. All right. So there'll be very little bluffing is what you're saying. If the morning email was poker, there's very little bluffing.
I've got a good hand, David. I've got a good hand.
Well, that is good to hear. 479-5551 is how you can chime into this show. You can call in. You can text in 479-5551 on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. Is another busy day. My goodness, I can't wait for the games to start. You and I were worried. I was almost terrified 4 months ago. I really was. We were talking 4 months ago, are we going to keep doing the show? How are we going to do this? Some suggested we should cut it back to 2 hours.
They did?
I mean, yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really upset I wasn't in that meeting.
Well, I don't know if it was a meeting. I think I said some suggested that
Not
we cut
to
it
me.
back to 2 hours.
Levitard got a dream.
I know. He took it as a demotion. What is he, crazy? So what? You're on the outs. It's 2 more years of network money. You're making 7 figures. The first digit's crooked. Take the demotion in stride there, big fella. My goodness. You got 2 more years of the national platform, and if you want, you can just ride it out in Miami. Doing pretty well. Still making 7 figures. But we digress. So, and I was terrified. I really was. I'm like, man, how are we going to do this? Jason Barrett, one of the big national media guys, makes a declarative statement 4 months ago. Well, now we're going to find out who has talent. I just flat out said it. Now this will separate shows from other shows.
And
if you can do, a solid show with no games taking place, then that's a show, basically.
Well, a couple of things. One, I was never terrified. I did flat out wonder if we should just take unemployment until football started. Because I didn't know, because this is damn near volunteer work from a financial standpoint for David and I. But that's all right. We love doing what we do. So that's why we volunteer.
Right.
Hurt. But I wasn't worried as much as you, I think, because not that you love sports more than I do, but you love every essence of sports, every detail of a 2-1 count with a runner on second. I mean, you could do 30 minutes on one batter in a game without a problem.
Don't get me started about that Gooden Socha at bat.
There you go. We could, right, that's how long ago? 30 years? David could do the next hour. I could go make breakfast. I can, in fact, toast an English muffin, put peanut butter on it, deliver it to his house, and come back, and he'd still be in the middle of the sixth pitch.
Right. And the 2-2 curveball to Mike Davis right before him. Yep.
So
absolutely.
I think a little differently, and that's why I think David and I have had success. So I wasn't as worried because, I could flip the script and we could go right into politics, and really upset some people.
Right. Well, but then we still wouldn't be on the air. But that's okay. That's all right.
But we've managed, and sports have, delivered in the way that they always do.
Well, I think sports has shown just how much layer there is to it. And, we've had fun at my expense over the years. I'm a goober, and I've joked about I'm a nooks and crannies guy. It's fitting that now I have to have an English muffin every morning because I am, when it comes to sports, an English muffin. I love all of it.
They were BOGO the other day, David. I'm thinking about having one every morning with you. Since we can't sit next to one another, I was thinking about the first break, toasting my English muffin and saying, hey, it's English muffin time during the starting five.
Love BOGO English muffins. You throw one on the counter, you throw the other in the freezer.
There you go.
For a week, then you take it out. The other thing that it allows when you BOGO English muffins, Mark, then you don't take it so personally. You don't feel as if the wife is invading your territory when she has one. It's like, whoa, hey, hold on a second. We got 6 of these, all right, this Sunday and then the work week. All right, what are you doing here? What are you doing? But when you've got BOGO, it's like, hey,
knock yourself out. That's right.
Yeah, knock yourself out. It's all good. It's all good. We love each other. It's fine. But if you only got one, I love you, but I don't know enough to give up one of my English muffins. I got to make it.
But let go my ego, as the old commercial used to say.
Unless you go shopping after breakfast on Sunday, okay, then you can take one this week. But I got to have the other 5. I don't know what to tell you. I love you, but to a point. Let's be real. But it seemed, I don't know how you took it. It seemed as if Greg Sankey and the SEC is trying to not do what the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have done.
Oh, there's no doubt. And I was a little off. I had been harping on one school recently. The Kent State Golden Flashes, I believe their nickname is.
Right.
And I just, by happenstance, started clicking on schedules because David got into this +1 thing. SEC conference games +1 because they play 8 games, and the Big Ten plays 9, and the Pac-12 plays 9, and the Big 12 plays 9. And David just thought, hey, the ACC and the SEC play 8. Would they do a +1? It's just something we kind of threw out there. So as David was doing that, I went on college football or footballschedules.com and started clicking a few teams. Who are they playing? Because this is before a lot had happened. We just had lost Iowa State. I was just kind of checking. And I noticed that Penn State played Kent State, and I know that Alabama played Kent State. And I just wondered out loud, what is this costing Kent State? Well, Louisiana Monroe has a similar 2-game set with Arkansas and Georgia.
There you go.
They have contacted both athletic directors who say they plan on playing, and that's the tune of $3.2 million for Louisiana Monroe. So we've got numbers now. So Kent State I was off by about 200,000 probably, but I'd said about 3 million. So Louisiana Monroe, one of the stories that's appeared in the last 12 hours is that Louisiana Monroe, while has not been guaranteed they're going to play their 2 non-conference games, they have been told by both schools they desperately want to play these games.
And I think Greg Sankey is taking into account the entire big picture. Now, don't get me wrong. He's thinking about the SEC first. But I think that Sankey also knows there's a lot of people that are depending on these extra games. The smaller FBS schools, on the few occasions, the FCS schools. There's a lot riding on these games. And is there a way to do this, to play in the fall And he reiterated once again, the last thing they want to do, I mean, well, the very last thing is to not play, but the last thing they want to do is to move everything to the calendar year 2021. It does not interest them at all. In part because, well, then what if something goes wrong? I mean, not a lot of wiggle room. So they're trying to figure out if they can do this. But Sankey also said, hey, right now, numbers aren't good. All right, we've got to turn this around. He pounded the table, said, hey, if you want your football, you need to wear your masks. I mean, I'm not sugarcoating this. For those of you in the South, if you want football, okay, wear your masks, period. And he goes, I'm not getting political. Okay, you want to take it that way, that's on you. I'm just telling you. All right, every medical person we're talking to says, if you don't wear a mask, you help spread it. Well, that's the last thing we need right now. So if you want to see your football and you want to help out, wear a mask. And I am a little surprised he said late July. I thought he might try to extend this even into the first week of August, but it seems as if the SEC all but said, we got about 17 days here. Got about 2.5 weeks. And let's see how the next 2.5 weeks go. Can we cut these cases in half in the hot spots, particularly in, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina? Can we cut these numbers in half? Can we get them going in the right direction? And he got into, it's not about deaths, which some people took that comment and beat him up for it. But he said, listen, the death rate's very low. He said, but it's about the ability to test, the local hospitals having room so that if universities open back up and then we're playing sports, that we can handle this, that communities can handle us persevering through the coronavirus. And he all but said, right now we've got situations where they can't. They just can't. We need to turn the numbers around. But he did say, we do not want to do. All right. We do not want to do what the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have done. Just flat out said it. Don't want to do it at all. It doesn't interest them. It really doesn't.
No. That's how they pay the bills. Those games, I mean, they don't write checks to Louisiana Monroe for $1.6 million because they're nice.
Right.
They write those checks because they're bringing in $6-7 million.
Right. Which also then tells me they're planning on having some people at these games.
Yes,
right now.
they are. Now, it is interesting of how many and what they're going to do, because part of the college and the football experience, but particularly the college football experience, David, is tailgating.
Right.
Now, I still work for another company, and my boss in that company is a Michigan State season ticket holder. He and I were on the phone yesterday for about an hour and a half, talking about lots of things.
Damn.
Well, had to go through some boating, had to go through some Michigan State stuff, and then we got to business.
Oh, I was going to say.
I hadn't talked to him in a few days.
An hour and a half.
Out there. But one of the things he said is that Michigan State's already sent a letter to him explaining how things are going to be in the fall.
Okay.
They didn't say a number, but they said it's going to be limited attendance. You're going to have to wear a mask. We are not allowing tailgating on campus. And it was at that point that Pat said to me, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in spending that kind of money to not be able to do the things that I want to do at these games. The point is going early with my family, with my friends. We tailgate in a certain spot. We all go to the game together. We tailgate after we come home. If I can't tailgate, if I have to wear a mask, if I can't really sit next to anyone, I'm not interested. I'll watch from my couch this year. Now, I give the SEC, they are playing the NHL game right now. They are waiting as long as is humanly possible to give any sort of an answer. And it benefited the NHL by waiting. The difference is, David, the NHL, the NBA, MLB are not having fans, and we know that.
Hey, the PGA Tour has just come out and said, not a fan for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I got lucky there. I got that. You asked me when the next fans were. Now, that still means the U.S. Open could because it's not a PGA event. You picked the Open for fans. I picked the Masters, so that bet is still live between you and I. Right. And college football, to me, the announcement of Louisiana Monroe's AD saying, well, I talked to Georgia and I talked to Arkansas, and they are still intending and hoping to play. Right. Well, if they're hoping to play, that means they're going to write them a check. And if they're going to write them a check, they're going to have fans in the stands.
Oklahoma's AD, the word came out yesterday. They're actually wanting to move their week 1 game up to week 0 so they could play week 0, have a week off, then play Tennessee, then have another week off, and then get into their season. So we'll see. It's a fluid situation, that is for sure. But Greg Sankey met face-to-face with the 14 ADs in the SEC yesterday, and Sankey spoke afterwards, which I was a little surprised. I got to be honest, I was a little surprised. Thought he might just release a statement. But he's been given a lot of interviews lately. I think too many, to be honest. There's not enough known. And so all you end up doing is answering a bunch of hypotheticals. And that's dangerous to do because, like in politics, they always say, don't answer hypotheticals because you're going to take that quote and they're going to hold it up there. And then 2 months later, they're going to use it against you. Right.
Or don't ask for an apology from everyone when things aren't done yet, because that can come back and bite you too, Mr. Governor.
So that was one of the big stories yesterday. The Redskins story interests me for this reason. I mean, you can get away with it. It was news. We're retiring the name and logo.
Uh-huh.
Logo, by the way, designed by a Native American in 1971. All right. After Lombardi's death. All right. And then the Redskins went Jack Kent Cooke and went for just different look for the team and what have you. And so I just feel that that's interesting. That's noteworthy. Don't you think, with everything that's going on today? But so it's noteworthy enough to just say we're retiring the name and logo. All right. Also, upon completion of the review process, are you inclined to think that process is going to be a short one or a longer one?
Well, David, I think it's going to be a longer one. My biggest question from that is, since the name has been retired, do they play without a nickname in the 2020 season?
No. We are retiring the name and logo upon completion of the review. See, they're still under review as to what they're going to rename the team.
Well, they'll be under review until they miss the playoffs then.
So that's what I'm wondering. Another bet as to, when do we think they are going to complete the review? We all know that they've decided on a name, but right now they have trademark issues. They have copyright, trademark, social media. They don't have their ducks in a row, so to speak.
Well, this hit them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
They didn't want to change the name.
Right.
Nike and FedEx forced them to change the name, and so I can see where copyright and trademark would be a problem. I do. This makes perfect sense. This doesn't even, I'm not throwing any blame on the Washington franchise right now for not coming out with a name today, because I know how much crap they're going through to try to change this.
How much do you think Daniel Snyder, because it's not just Nike. There's a couple of other places that said they're not going to sell Redskin stuff, that they took it off their website.
Amazon.
And there was one other also. And what I'm wondering is, if you're Daniel Snyder, how much of a grudge do you hold? How much do you then want to say when you come out with this new stuff? No, you can only get it at warriors.com or redtails.com.
I'd have a lot of that, David. I would have a lot of it, but I don't think you can and sell everything you want to sell.
Well, probably not, but I know I'd want to.
I'm right there with you. Pepsi was the other one, David.
Okay.
It was Amazon and Pepsi. The Pepsi basic. And the Pepsi one, to me, the Nike and the Pepsi one, if you want to be a real blankety blank, they have contracts with the league. This is right. Jarrah going and getting Coors Light. Like, to me, this is Dan Snyder saying, you're sure, Pepsi? Because I'll put Coke in this building right now and you can take me to court.
Well, I would do it. I would flat do it and say you broke the contract.
Not only did you break the contract, you don't want to work with one of your partners. Why are you signing an agreement with this league when you are flat out telling me you will not do business with me? Do you have a contract with 32 teams or 31?
See, Mark, to me, this would all be part of the review process. This is another reason why we haven't announced the name yet, because I'm holding grudges and I'm taking care of business. You don't want to deal with me? Well, I don't want to deal with you. So I'm taking this time to figure out, can I get out of these contracts and can I make deals with somebody else? Thank you very much.
Boy, now you just get a window inside of the soul of both David Moulton and Mark Miller.
I may not do it, but I'm looking into it.
And the problem is, if you and I work together, I'd be helping you look into it. There would be no one as a buffer.
Oh, yes. There'd be others in the front office going, hey, guys, this is not smart business. It might be Roger Goodell on line one. Tell him we'll take a message.
Don't know what to tell you, Roger. I'm busy. I've got Coca-Cola on line 2.
Right. Yep.
The Amazon one, I'm not sure I'm going to get around that. But I've got Coca-Cola on line 2.
That's a tough one. And they're opening up a place right around where I want to get the new stadium, too. So that's going to be tough. But, yeah. So I was just wondering. There's an athletic director who sounded like he was hosting the Miller and Moulton show yesterday. We'll tell you who he is coming up. A lot of news. Some fascinating things going on in basketball, which you may not be aware of, that took place yesterday and that may have ramifications. And Deion Sanders in the news. Well, because of one of his sons and where he's going to play college football. Miller and Moulton. Hope your week's off to a good start. We thank you for starting your Tuesday, July 14th, with us here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
A date which will live in infamy. People who knock these buildings down will hear all of it.
Amazing comebacks.
We on Twitch. My mom says she's having trouble.
Says we are.
Before you know it, another great American
but that doesn't necessarily mean that we are. But
we'll be in the books.
We're live. I'm watching it. We have 9 viewers. Not a problem at all. Everything's perfect. It's on Mom.
Whether you stop by a locally owned Napa Auto Parts, Napa Auto Care, or visit Napa online, if you need help with your ride, you can count on Napa Know-How.
Let's face it.
Morning, Juan.
Stressful times, new routines, the constant bombardment of bad news.
On YouTube.
Trying to keep you
everything's up. Everything's running.
It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times.
What's really great is that when I go to YouTube, because my daughter has found YouTube, is that right next to Miller and Moulton is My Little Pony.
Is mood.
That's what comes up.
The greatest change for men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood improves.
The new Bronco's badass.
And everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference. C4MH.com.
Badass. I want one.
I've been a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home. And that'll put you in a good mood, too. C4MH.com's express treatment plan is convenient, affordable, and above all,
Bloomberg's quick take from their web. Ford's bringing back the SUV that O.J. Simpson made famous.
How much money would you like to save just by doing something you're already doing? How about 40%? With Allstate, safe drivers can save 40% just by doing something David. They're already doing. Driving safe.
At least it happened there, yeah.
40% just by driving safe.
Okay, I heard Ford's bringing back
the SUV famous.
Oh, boy.
That's what Bloomberg quick take tweeted out.
safe driving discounts. Subject to terms, conditions.
It's awesome looking.
Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
I want one.
If you're currently hiring, you face new difficulties. Housing Wire could relate. They needed to hire a reporter, so they turned to ZipRecruiter and found Alexandra Rojas. ZipRecruiter matched Alexandra to Housing Wire's.
Ooh, BBC News. That's a good one. That's a good title. Iran executes man convicted of selling missile information to the CIA. That's what you do to a spy. That'll show everybody.
Try it now for free at ZipRecruiter.com.
Well, we did that back in the day here.
Did you see the comments of the gentleman whose father had the field named for him in Texas, David?
No.
He doesn't like the president very much.
Of the United States?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What were his comments? It was something, it's horse blank, and then he says, you can effing print that, too. He's 67.
And another thing.
He's 67.
Yeah, like he cares.
Right.
Besides, how much money do you think he has?
He's the one that called the university and said, rename the field after Ricky Williams and Earl Campbell.
Right.
I talked to my brothers. We're all in agreement. Do this now. And they asked the question, why do you think this got done? Because there's a lot of bureaucracy with that in Texas. And he's like, you want to be the one that said no? I mean, it was so, the quotes were so good because they were just so common sense. Like,
well, the other thing is Austin is left of center politically.
The only city in the state.
Right.
365 days a year. Inland, the river to Lake O, and out 75 nautical miles. And new membership pricing starts as low as $99. Call 239-945-1664 for more information. Or visit towboatuscapecoral.com. With Towboat US, you're never stuck on the water.
You know, my mom made a interesting comment to me yesterday because we're going on vacation here in a few weeks. She said,
owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida.
You, sure North Carolina's going to let us in?
We operate with integrity, knowledge, and service.
Oh, they'll let you in.
Roofing, or call 239-332-1441.
Just a matter of if they want quarantine you.
Well, that's why I might have to get tested before I go. I don't know.
Listen to the Dan Patrick Show at work.
Never boring.
Oh, the blue note card is a staple of the David Moulton life.
Yeah. Got a lot more of them now, too.
Back to Miller and Moulton. No. This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Are they making fun of my note cards?
No, they just commented that you have blue note cards.
I do. Welcome back. 29 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, which is where we'll post today's poll question between now and the top of the hour. You can also take in the show via YouTube and twitch.tv on the Miller and Moulton channel. Just spell it out, Miller and Moulton. But yes, I have blue 5x7, I think they are. Maybe they're a little bigger than that. Index cards. And I get these for the network stuff that I do for football. This started with Gary Danielson, okay? And then it went to golf. And now I don't have the golf gig anymore. And I have about 2,000 blue cards sitting right next to me.
You're good for the rest of your career.
Oh, my goodness. Am I ever?
That's of course as long as Gary gets an extension.
That's as long as I have a career. Right. So, yes, so my cards have cards, as we say. And, yes, I put the starting five. And it's a busy day because I actually have writing on both sides of the card.
Count with me, everybody. It's time now for the
starting five.
Starting
Five
9.
big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton's starting five. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Number 1.
Greg Sankey, SEC commissioner, met with all 14 ADs yesterday and basically said, we'll get back to you at the end of July, but our intent is to play all of these games. But the numbers are going the wrong way. And that this comes down to, can communities, do we have the ability to test, and can we handle positive cases. So we'll get back to you in 2.5 weeks. And he did say, hey, if you want to help out, wear a mask. Wear a mask. Mark, Iowa State's athletic director is Jamie Pollard. He's been at Iowa State for 14, 15 years. He sent an open letter to fans and boosters, which was made public yesterday. I have to admit, I'm a big fan of the open letter. Don't know about you. I'm a big fan of it, whether you post it on a website or whether you actually mail it out to everybody and they get it. I would do something like that if I was high up in an organization. I think it's important. I think it's important to level with people and what have you. And you know how much fans like to feel appreciated, as if they're being brought in closer. So I'm a big fan of the, quote, open letter.
No, I am too. I like it a lot better when the open letter comes from someone on top as opposed to the guy quitting, sending return all on bottom. I enjoy that letter. That just gets you fired.
Right. Not the Control-Alt-Delete that went awry. But Jamie Pollard sent a letter out to Cyclone Nation, if you will, in which he said, hey, this isn't the number one reason. I mean, health and safety are our number one concerns. I mean, please don't misunderstand what I'm about to tell you. But you may want to tone down your criticism of what we're trying to do, because if we don't play sports in the fall, it's going to cost us a minimum of $40 million. Just so you know, $40 million. That's just the fall. And he talked about money they lost at the end of last year. And he also talked about how much money the university expects to lose, even with them playing sports in the fall. He thinks the university's general fund will lose $40 million, period.
I've been, I'm glad to hear that. Not glad to hear that. It's nice to hear something back up what I've been talking about for a week. I mean, I flat out told you that Rutgers, just because I know somebody there, this is what they're talking about. This is real. Schools are going to lose a ton of money this fall.
Right. And they're just hoping to lose a ton. That they can recover from. All right. What they're hoping is to not lose a catastrophic amount of money that they can't recover from. As we mentioned earlier, the Redskins' name is no more. The name and logo are being retired, quote, upon completion of the review process, which is either going to take a short period of time until they can get this trademark issue with whatever their new name is settled, or it's going to take a very long time so that they play the 2020 season as the Redskins. Once again, and that could be our poll question. I'm throwing a bunch, because you didn't like my Charles Cootie or Cole Custer. Okay, which name do you prefer?
Sorry, I don't want to do a poll question in which the audience doesn't know who either person is.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They both sound like they could be racing in Days of Thunder. All right? And the fact, and this we mentioned Cole Custer, who could have been a character name on Days of Thunder, but he actually won the race doing the scene out of Days of Thunder, in which he said, you can pass on the outside. It will hold. And that's what he did, going 4 wide. But I digress. But, Mark, poll question.
Special match tires.
Yes, special
staggered
match tires. Staggered and balanced. So, do you think the Redskins will play the 2020 season as the Redskins?
Yes.
Or have they played their last game as the Washington Redskins?
I went back and forth with this in my head yesterday 4 or 5 different times. I think they're going to play as the Redskins.
I do too. I do. And you did. That's true, because yesterday at this time you thought that they were going to change it.
I was flipping and flopping. I might as well have been Mitt Romney yesterday. I changed my mind so many times.
Listen, I don't have to say this every day, but I feel as if I darn near do. We're not the smartest people in the world, the two hosts of this show. But we did point out, we do pay attention. I will give Miller and Moulton that. for the most part, we pay attention. And when last Wednesday, the Houston Rockets flew into Orlando, and Russell Westbrook and James Harden were not on the flight, but their 69-year-old head coach was. Okay, we did just say, think about that. And when asked to comment on it, the Rockets had no comment. They didn't say they were delayed for personal reasons. They had a family matter, which they easily could have said. They didn't say a word. And we went, interesting. Well, Russell Westbrook has COVID. He says he's doing okay, but he's back in Houston.
Yeah, he also reminded people to wear masks.
He did. Here, to me, though, could be two more interesting stories. Did you hear what happened to the Sacramento Kings player? He left the bubble.
That didn't take long.
Well,
but no. Okay, hold on here.
Rashawn Holmes.
It did not take very long.
No. Well, because apparently the food in the bubble sucks. That's what we're hearing from NBA players. Okay, they cannot handle the food that is available to them. Apparently, it's just inadequate. Okay,
you know what? Most of those Disney hotels, they're probably right. I'm guessing they're not staying at the Contemporary.
So, Sacramento Kings, Rashawn Holmes left the bubble. And this is to reiterate how serious the NBA is about their bubble. They said if you left the bubble, if you were caught sneaking out at night and breaking curfew, you had to go into quarantine for 10 days. And so Rashawn Holmes is 2 days down, 8 more to go in quarantine because he got caught leaving the bubble. So that's how serious they are in Orlando. And yet it's not as serious as they are in the WNBA. Did you hear this story yesterday? Arguably the biggest star in the league, Elena Delle. All right, she has Lyme disease. And she petitioned the league to say, hey, I don't think medically I can play. My doctors have said I should not be playing. I'm at pretty high risk. And so, she didn't just opt out, but there's a process in which you could be medically declared that you can't play this year. And so she tried to go that route. Yeah, the WNBA denied her request. Their doctor said, no, you're okay. You can play. And she basically has come out and said, well, that's not what my people are saying. And I have a feeling that sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours that Elena Delle is going to go, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not playing.
Well, there's no way she's playing. And this is a terrible look for the WNBA.
Well, it is, like I said.
Terrible look.
One of their clearly top 5 players.
Yes. And I don't care if it's their 500th best player. The one thing they've told us is pre-existing conditions are a problem. I'm guessing her doctors believe that Lyme disease is a pre-existing condition.
Yes. Yeah. And, she thought basically, it was a done deal. I fill out these forms and, you'll agree, your doctors will agree with my doctors and this is done. And I'm not playing this year. And they said, yeah, you can play. There's nothing wrong with this. So we'll see how that's resolved. As expected, the junior college ranks came out yesterday and said, yeah, we're not going to have fall sports. We're moving everything to after January 1st. Now, FSW plays 5 sports. They play 1 in the fall, both basketballs in the winter, and then they play baseball and softball in the spring. This will affect volleyball, which now has to move their season to after January 1st. Volleyball will have their season mark reduced by 8 matches from 28 to 20. But the FSW men's and women's basketball teams basically push their season. Well, it'll start nearly 3 months late, but it will end, instead of ending in mid-March, it'll end in mid-April. And they're going to have their season reduced by 8 games from 30 to 22. And their season practice will start like second week of January, and games will start at the end of January. Deion Sanders' son, Shadur, is a top 10 quarterback recruit in the 2021 class. He's also a top 50 player in the ESPN 300.
Right. And he's coming to school in Florida, everybody.
He is.
Ready? Gators, Noles, Canes, Bulls, Knights.
Owls. FAU. Willie Taggart. Look at you. Willie Taggart. All right. The kid was loyal to Taggart. Remember, Deion, obviously, a relationship with Taggart at Florida State. Deion nearly went to work, if reports are to be believed, for Willie Taggart at Florida State. And so his son, following Willie Taggart to FAU, and he first ESPN 300 recruit for FAU since ESPN's been doing these rankings, and that goes back about a dozen years. Interesting news for the Twins. Byron Buxton injured his left foot at practice at Target Field yesterday, had to be carted off. Twins say they are cautiously optimistic, but Buxton does have durability issues. He's only played 100 games in one of the last 4 seasons. Mark, have you seen who has signed on and given A-Rod and J-Lo potentially checks to help be part of the Mets ownership group?
Yeah, and a few more athletes came on board with them.
Like 6.
Yeah.
4 football players or former football players. Brian Urlacher, Joe Thomas, Travis Kelce, DeMarco Murray are the football players. Bradley Beal and Mason Plumlee are the basketball players. I mean, this is going to take $2 billion. I mean, I don't know how much these guys are given, but if we do the math, I think you got to give what, $20 million? That's a percent. To own a percent of the Mets, you'd have to give $20 million, right? $2 billion, because 10% be $200 million,
right?
So 1% be 20,
right?
I mean, I'm trying to figure out: are these guys going to own like 0.1% of the Mets when all said and done?
David, I think when it's all said and done, they're going to own 0%.
Well, I hope so. For as much as I love J-Lo, and I do love J-Lo, okay. Oh, boy. A-Rod as owner. Oh, my goodness. NHL practice officially got underway yesterday. Pittsburgh added 9 players to their camp because apparently they've got some coronavirus issues. And the Minnesota Wild promoted their interim coach, Dean Evison, who replaced Bruce Boudreau in February. And the Wild went 8-4 under Evison. So the GM decided, we'll keep you around for a couple of years, give you a contract through 2022. And for what it's worth, the Patriot League canceled fall sports yesterday. And, Navy is a part of the Patriot League.
I was going to say that there's one part of this, but in their release, in their release, they clearly said, we don't count.
Right.
Army. Do what you want.
Right. They say, now Navy's in the AAC for football, but they're in the Patriot League for everything else.
Right.
So and the Patriot League canceled fall sports except for the Navy. You guys,
Army, Navy, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You have a bigger, and it said so. I mean, they actually had 2 sentences in the release that basically said the United States Military Academy and the United States Naval Academy represent more academically and athletically than anybody else. Do what you want to do.
Right. If you guys feel good about this and you can play and schedule some games, knock yourself out.
Right.
So there you have it. So, Mark, that was 9 stories, by the way. Well, that was 9 topics. It was like
right, and to me, it didn't even get. I mean, they're not big stories, but Georgia now has 2 transfer quarterbacks that are eligible immediately.
Right.
So Florida, thank you very much. Good luck with that.
Yeah, the USC kid, JT Daniels, was immediately approved. Which, believe it or not, okay, this is where if you're a fan of your school, okay, because I don't think Daniels should have been immediately eligible. I mean, he's just transferring. There's no family dynamic there. There's no coronavirus dynamic there. Okay, I mean, there just isn't. He's just transferring. And they're like, you can play immediately. Really? Huh. Well, then when you start denying kids, and they will start denying kids soon, can you explain to me why? Apparently, if you transfer to or from Georgia, it's okay. Justin Fields, JT Daniels. I mean, quarterbacks coming to and from Georgia is fine. No problem. And that, Mark, at 15 minutes before the hour is
The starting five. 5 big stories that you need to know. This is Miller and Moulton starting five. Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
How do you feel if you're the kid who graduate transferred from Wake Forest? You thought you had the job all locked up, and now they approved JT Daniels. Is it too late to transfer again?
Wow. I feel badly for that
heck?
kid.
Oh, man.
Because Daniels got 3 years eligibility.
Yeah.
The kid from Wake's got 1.
That's right.
Anybody want to know who the quarterback's going to be? The 5-star with 3 years of eligibility left, or the 3-star with 1 year of eligibility left?
Yeah, you could argue you can go the other way. You play the 1-year kid because this is the only year I'm going to get out of him.
They might. Well, hey, if he's better, they will.
Well, he's been there longer at least, but, that doesn't mean anything. Miller and Moulton. We'll review yesterday's poll question, which got a good response and was as big a margin as just about any poll question we've ever asked.
But not big enough.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll explain, and then we'll unveil today's poll question, which we haven't decided on yet. So this will be a lively commercial break on YouTube and Twitch TV. Coming up, Miller and Moulton, thanks for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program.
No, Footen. The difference is this guy's going to a place that they can get into the playoff.
I'm nervous about this.
Georgia. So UGA can go to the playoff. UCF cannot.
There's going to be a lot to deal with.
Oh, that was mean before 7 o'clock, wasn't it?
And after you do all the testing,
unveil that in
and do
the
all the
baseball
stuff you're
hour.
supposed to do, who can get down to baseball?
All right.
Dan Patrick Show. Weekdays at 9 a.m. on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Dial star 2020. Friends, I care.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonathan France. We know that weakened vision can limit our ability to enjoy day-to-day activities. And with the clear advantage of the Panoptix lens,
I know. I am mean, particularly when it comes to UCF.
Well, that's because the UCF fans have gone after Mark.
And it's one in particular. It's one in particular that works for our company that makes a point to try to bash me all over the place, but yet we work at the same place. So that kind of gets my night hatred up there.
I want you to know that I'm going to treat
all right,
you
poll
like
question.
A member of my own
all right.
family. You deserve to see your future in
Can't believe you're rejecting mine.
How long will they be the Washington Redskins?
The new spicy Western bacon cheeseburger. It's just
Will
like
they be the
Western
Redskins
bacon
this year?
cheeseburger with charbroiled beef.
Will the
crispy
Washington
bacon, and
NFL
mayonnaise.
team
It's
play
on
this
tangy
season as the
barbecue sauce,
Redskins?
But we added spicy jalapenos and melty pepper jack cheese. We took a burger that was
I hold grudges, Foot, and I don't know what to tell you. Once a team in their fan base come at me with basically stupid rationale, I can write them off.
Participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary. Hardee's presents the Southwest Omelet, Biscuit, and Burrito. Wanted in 42 states on charges of bringing a sweat to the brow of breakfast lovers with low spice tolerance. We start with a made-from-scratch biscuit. And then we add a fluffy omelet full of melted cheese, crispy bacon,
Here we go.
and spicy jalapenos. And if you're feeling extra wild, you can get it
I don't know what else besides the.
My cards are 5x8 officially.
Okay.
Only at Hardee's. Feed your happy.
Outside of the Redskins, what else is there to do?
We've got our good friend Tim Meister.
If you want to do Charles Cootie or Cole Trickle,
I'm just having fun.
I will do it. I will type it right now.
Tell us what's new at the store.
I'll put Dick Trickle on there if I have to.
Right, not bad. Cold Trickle, Dick Trickle,
or Cole Custer.
That's our. No. Today, okay. Cold Trickle, Dick Trickle.
Which one's real?
Okay, which one's better?
Lou Saban, Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Best thing I saw on Twitter today is now you know that Trump's going to have to answer a question. Saban's going to have to ask her a question.
Right. Here's my question, Can we get away with this poll question? If you were an Alabama fan, could you vote for Tommy Tuberville for Senate?
We can't hear. I don't think it.
I'm just wondering, would everybody role play if you were an Alabama fan? I think it's a great. I know we can't ask it as a poll question, but I do.
No,
think
I would love to be doing it in Birmingham.
Yes,
it'd be a week's worth of show. Oh yeah, I got the haircut like a week ago.
I mean, here's
before my wife's birthday.
Apparently, Sessions is trailing in the polls. Okay, do you just late in the campaign just look right into the camera, do an ad, and go "Roll Damn Tide"?
Yes.
I mean, I'm just wondering because you got to win the primary. You win the primary, you're going back to the Senate. All right.
Dan Martineau here, owner of DR Martineau Roofing of Southwest Florida. We're still finding a lot of roofs with hurricane.
I mean, don't you have to
call us today for a free inspection?
If you're losing in the polls, don't you have to pull out that card? I think you do. Yeah, let's do the will they play this year as the Redskins? Or
what name will the Washington NFL football team play?
Will they play this season as the Redskins?
All right, now we're getting somewhere.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Eight minutes before 7 o'clock. Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? We're Miller and Moulton. This is Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Streaming at millerandmoulton.com. Broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv. 479-5551 is how you can chime in on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line. 479-5551. We had a poll question yesterday that simply asked you if the only way to have a football season this fall, so, there's two key parts there, only way and in the fall, is to start wearing a mask today, will you? 84% of you said yes, but 16% of you said no.
Bingo.
So 1 in 6 of you said nope, still wouldn't do it.
And 1 in 6 is you could argue, and the 1 in 6 thinks I'm crazy, but you could argue that 1 in 6 is the difference between a football season and not a football season.
Nope, not going to do it. Sorry. Not going to do it.
And that's why we put that question. And that's why, David, I was so adamant with you every time you kept going about going to the games. Like, I don't care about the people going to the games because they don't have a damn thing to do with whether or not the season's going to start on time because so few people go to games. And yet, a big vote and 16% like, no, I'm not wearing a mask.
No, it's not happening. Nope, don't care. Love my football, but not enough to wear a mask. Not going to do it. Now, we probably, upon further review, should have had another option. We should have had yes, no, and then we should have probably weeded out those that are already wearing masks. Like the two of us, when we go out, we're wearing masks. So, for us, the answer was obvious. Well, I'm already doing it, so why wouldn't I continue doing it? But in a way, what we were getting at were those that do not wear masks. Is this enough of a reason for you to start wearing a mask, essentially? And it was interesting, at least we thought, to find that for 1 out of 6 of you, no, not going to do it. Not going to happen. Well, when's it going to happen that the Redskins are no more?
David, it's such a great question because we really don't know. And I want you to hear how I finally worded our poll question. We agreed on it, but will the NFL football team in Washington, D.C. play this season as the Redskins, or will the new name start play this year? So your choices are Redskins or something else.
Right.
I mean, what will
and
they?
I believe they'll be the Redskins this year. I do. One final year as the Redskins. One final HTTR, as they call it. Hail to the Redskins. I think we'll get one more year.
I will say, that's the other part of this. They have a fight song.
Huh. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Apparently, they're keeping the same colors. That's been announced. They're keeping the whole burgundy and gold thing.
So will the NFL football team in D.C. play this season as the Redskins?
I like it.
I
mean, it's not, which name do you prefer, Charles Cootie or Cole Custer? I mean, that's top of the line poll question right there. But, we went with the second best one we can come up with.
You are just never going to let me live this down, are you?
I'm just having so much fun. You know how much I love alliteration. And I love the fact, we have two real names. And if you don't know sports particularly well, if you're just a casual sports fan, okay, you could be sold on the fact that those are two movie names.
There's no doubt there.
No, one won the Masters and one won a NASCAR race. No, they're real guys.
1 minute.
So that's all.
But it was fascinating yesterday that they retired the name without a time frame. Now, we all know the reasons, part of the reasons behind is there are some copyright and trademark and websites that they're trying to buy and things of that nature. But we're not that far away from the start of the season. There would be a lot that has to happen in order to get this done. Now, the fact that they're not playing in front of fans early on helps. The fact that there's only one preseason game as far as to get things in the stadium done and of that nature. But I really don't think they could get everything approved and done for this year, David. I don't.
We'll see if there's one preseason game. Players don't want to play. What will the NFL do? Miller and Moulton. We'll head to Washington, D.C. in the next hour. Pat Kerwin in the 8 o'clock hour. Thanks for listening.
Looking for a frameless shower door? My Shower Door has just opened their 8th Florida showroom, and it's conveniently located in Cape Coral. With more than 75,000 frameless shower doors installed, no one has more experience and 5-star reviews than My Shower Door. We've been named #1 by readers of the newspaper Naples News for 17 consecutive years and have just been named as Lee County's Manufacturer of the Year. Want to see more?
It's weird. Some days the SCAR site bothers me. Most days it doesn't. And this morning, for whatever reason, it is. It's interesting. There are days where it just has tightness to it. It's like a belt. It just on its own tightens it a loop or two. It's like,
Lord knows, two of us don't like belts.
Although goodness knows, Mark, I need them now.
Well, yeah.
I need them now. Keeping the weight off, too.
Good for you.
Of course, I can't eat all the stuff I want to eat. My wife, God bless her, she's really tried hard not to eat some of the things that she knows that I really love. So my wife hadn't had pizza since my surgery. Had not had pizza. And she was just jonesing for it Sunday. And I said, I ate whatever the hell I wanted right in front of you our whole relationship. Never felt guilty about it. You shouldn't feel guilty about it. Just because I'm not eating it doesn't mean you can. And it took like 3 hours for me to beat her down. And finally, okay. So.
Walk to Grimaldi's, get a pizza, and walk home.
Well, I know. It's what I said. And so, I just drove over to Blue Moon. There's a particular pizza that she liked, which I don't, actually. There's a certain pizza they do that I have no interest in.
If she lost weight, she'd disappear.
Well,
he just says that she lost weight as well, and I just am simply replying, if she lost weight, she would disappear. There's no weight for her to lose. She is a petite.
Before COVID, actually, she got a little too thin. I even told her, I go, you're a little thin. Fortunately, with COVID, she's put about 5 back on.
Nothing people like more than to nothing women more like than you like to talk about them gaining weight.
Yeah, but I think it makes her look better.
I've not seen her in a while, but I can't imagine there's any way she'd ever be considered anything but a skinny human being.
Yeah, I think she's a whopping 118 now. Something really robust.
How about Tucker Carlson's head writer?
Did he say anything off the top of his show yesterday? Or
Yesterday, he didn't say anything Friday. He said something yesterday. I'm just reading the one because one person tweeted, "Am I the only one who thinks Carson's apology is odd to say it's wrong to attack people for qualities they cannot control?" But he's taking a long vacation, apparently.
Well, it is vacation time.
Exactly.
Well, it's tough when your head writer's a flaming racist.
Well, especially when the writer had said like 3 weeks ago, there's
I
nothing,
write everything he says.
Nothing he reads
Right,
that I haven't
I
written.
didn't write. Yeah. Oops.
The best local sports show this town has ever heard. Here's Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
And as we rapidly approach 2 minutes past 7 o'clock, top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Streaming once again at millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and twitch.tv channels. If you miss any part of the show, you can go to millerandmoulton.com and download our Connecticut casts. Each hour of the show has its own podcast brought to you by Connecticut, and that's why we call them Connecticut Cast. Chime into the show via the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line, 479-5551, 479-5551. Today was the day when, coming up in about 45 minutes' time, Pat Kerwin will join us next hour. We'll head to our nation's capital coming up at the bottom of this hour as that saga continues to play out. 479-5551. So was yesterday, Mark, if you're a football fan, after last week not being a good week, I mean, let's face it, Big Ten, Pac-12, a couple of other smaller leagues in, some D1, some D3, NAIA, just canceling, moving back, canceling. Get rid of non-conference. I mean, all the news last week, if you were a football fan, college football in particular, was bad. All of it. Yesterday, two bits of news. One, for the time being, I thought Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, drew a line in the sand. And basically said, everybody, take a deep breath, chill out. We got 2.5 weeks before we have to decide anything. Now, the numbers are not going in the right direction. Wear a mask, help us turn this thing around. But we got 2.5 weeks. That's number one. Number two, did you hear the news that came out yesterday about the NFL and their equipment, in which they feel they have a mouth shield?
Yes. Under Armour, I believe, has created it. That goes on the helmet.
Right. But that, they're just, I mean, listen, all of us at some point, privately or publicly, are wondering, so, okay, you're going to play football. It's going to be, if somebody has it, it's going to be tough not to spread it. But, okay. But apparently the NFL has said to their equipment manufacturers, hey, get creative. Come up with something here. And so they came up with a mouth shield, if you will. All right. Okay. Now you got to think, and for those that have played football before, it's one, Mark, the resistance early on in hockey from just the quote unquote face shield, which only came down to like the end of your nose. And you remember, because that's when you were in the sport, in which, just the face shield. And it wasn't the college hockey cage. It was just at the higher levels of hockey, in which, one, they made you wear helmets. And then two, some were saying, hey, the errant stick and puck, why don't you wear a face shield and then come down to the bridge of your nose, the end of your nose, what have you. And there were a lot of players that you said, it's fogging up and I can't see and my vision and all that. I mean, never mind if you were to wear like the PPE that they're wearing now.
And look, I played high school hockey, no higher level than that. For about a week, I tried to wear one of the iTechs, the full. You either wore a full cage that you've seen that just has bars, or they had the shield, but it went all the way down in a couple of small holes around the chin area. So obviously there was some ventilation. I think I wore it for 2 practices, and I had to get a different helmet or take that off because I run hot. Mine fogged up all the time, but it was incredibly uncomfortable. So I'm not trying to say I played at any high level. I can tell you I've played with a full protective plastic shield over my face, and it's a pain in the ass. There's not a lot of airflow. So, I mean, there is just not, and you're talking about 300-pound linemen in the South in August and September playing football with one of these.
And so, obviously the NFL trying to juggle, well, we'd love to have some kind of, face shield of some kind, but by the same token, we don't want these guys to just fry from the heat. We got to allow some air to get in there. They're going to be incredibly uncomfortable, and we don't want them taking their helmet off every other play also. So, what is it we can do? So I thought that, the NFL, they feel as if Under Armour has created a revolutionary piece of equipment here. This may help. Oh, okay. And I think if you're a fan of college football, all right, that Greg Sankey tried to restore some calm yesterday. He tried to say, hey, don't get me wrong, it's cloudy, and it may even be stormy off in the distance. But right now, we still think we can manage this. We don't have a lot of wiggle room, but we think we can manage this. And it's our intention to manage it. And once again, this goes back to something we brought up a few months ago. Could you have amongst the Power Five, forget the group of 5 and the whole rest of the sport at its various levels, just amongst the Power Five, could you have certain conferences doing something totally different from the other conferences? And then how will it turn out? I mean, we're pretty polarized in this country, not just red and blue, but certain regions and the way they've acted versus certain other regions and how they've behaved about all this. Well, now imagine if we take that into our college football and you literally have certain conferences representing certain regions that are going to behave a certain way. And then what if you have other conferences and other regions that are then going to behave a different way? And I'll be brutally honest, and no one's thinking and talking about this now, but if, it's a huge if, it's the if right now, if the SEC/ACC/Big 12 decide they're going to go and do a different thing than the Big 10 and the Pac-12, and it works, and they pull it off, all right, it'll hurt those other 2 conferences in recruiting, and it'll be used against them. And don't think it won't. I mean, this is big-time college football.
No, you're right, David.
I mean,
I'll play the other side. I don't like, we don't do this game, but you're right. Sure. And if they're wrong and the Big 10 and Pac-12 are right, do you think it will hurt the SEC? Because I don't.
I think it could hurt the Big 12. Well, it'll hurt the SEC the least because they're the best.
And it won't and it won't hurt Clemson. It may hurt the rest of the ACC, but it's not going to hurt Clemson. And the fact of the matter is, you may be right, David. It may hurt Michigan and Penn State and Wisconsin. It's not going to hurt the Buckeyes.
No, I said though I said the conference.
No, you're right. But I mean,
I know we have a tendency to not care about all. Out of the 65 teams, we only care about 6 of them. But I'm just saying, in recruiting, they will use anything against the other.
Oh, absolutely. And David, all I'm saying is that you want to pull out that top 10 from 1972, and we want to go over which teams are relevant, because your point's incredibly valid. But at the end of the day, we can sit here and spew on and on about the 65 Power 5 schools and what they represent when it's only 6 to 10 that matter anyhow. And it's all that has mattered. That's what's become of this. You know, that's the only question is, we've been saying this for a while. Who are the schools that can emerge out of the other 55 to be a player? And you know, the one school that I've picked out that's not and never has been a team, I look at Arizona State and go, that interests me. That Herm's done better than I ever thought he would.
Well, and also Phoenix is, from a population standpoint, it's clearly a top 10 city population-wise in this country and growing rapidly.
And they've never had a problem in Arizona of getting California kids to come to Phoenix for college.
Right. And Arizona State has a massive online program. That university has much more resources than people are aware of. And it is a pretty campus in every way. and so when you picked Arizona State, and this generated from a discussion we were having a few months ago in which Mark referenced a 1970s poll. And I took this from Gary Danielson. He shared with me, he gave a speech one time in which he said, I'm just going to go through the AP top 10. And so he was giving a speech to a group and he went through it and people were nodding their heads. And he goes, yeah, that was from 1977. And everybody laughed, in realizing that, wow, here we are 40 years later. All right. And it's damn near the same AP top 10. And so I asked Mark, I go, okay, who's going to crash that AP top 10 in 2050? Who could be the new school, if you will? And then we narrowed it down to who's going to be the next Clemson. A school that maybe had a moment, which Clemson did. I mean, Clemson won the in the early 80s. 80, what year was it under Danny Ford? 81, 82?
Was it in the middle of the Georgia run or was it right after? That's what if it was at 83 or 80.
Georgia was, I think it was 81. I think Georgia won it in 80. I think Clemson won it in 81. And then Penn State beat Georgia
in 82.
In 82. And then Miami beat Nebraska to win it in 83. So I think it was Danny Ford in 81. So they had a moment in the sun. But up until what Dabo has done here in recent years, Clemson was never a perennial top 10. Danny Ford gave them a moment and a couple of really good seasons. And so we wondered, who's going to be the next Clemson? And Marks, said, you know what? I'll go a little off the radar. I'll go Arizona State, which, considering right now the Pac-12 can't get near the playoff, with a subpoena, is, a pretty bold guess. I like it.
By the way, just happened to pull up those 72 rankings. Let me give you the top 10.
Well, I think officially I thought it was 76 or 7.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. I picked 72 because that's what I said. So, David, here's your final rankings. January 72. Undefeated national champion, USC. Number 2, Oklahoma. Number 3, Texas. Number 4, Nebraska. Now, there's a school that's fallen off, and I don't think they ever are a shadow of what they once were.
Well, hey, Texas ain't.
No, I know, but
Texas right now either.
Auburn 5, Michigan 6, Alabama 7, Tennessee 8, Ohio State 9, Penn State 10. Just for good measure, LSU 11. And you go through the rest of the top 25. Now, North Carolina, Arizona State, Colorado, NC State, Louisville, and Washington State all made the top 20. And Georgia Tech made the top 20. So there are, some teams that aren't on there, but that's kind of what happens every year. Those are the, once every 4 years, a team makes a run and they have their thing. But there's Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma, USC. It doesn't change much.
No.
It just doesn't. And that's why when you make these statements, and I'm not trying to knock your statement, because you're right on a lot of fronts that it would hurt the Big Ten, but outside of Ohio State, the Big Ten is what we now know it as.
But if you're a fan of a conference, you're trying to have more than one path to the playoff. I mean, you are. I mean, you don't want to just have to depend on Ohio State every year.
No, you got Wisconsin if they get the right schedule.
You would like to have a little more depth. to it. You would like to have multiple shots at this. You know, what happens if Ohio State loses their quarterback one year? We don't have a team in the playoff. You know what I'm getting at. Ohio State, loses a game they shouldn't have lost. We're not going to be represented in the playoff. Now, that could all be for, moot in 5 years when I think we're going to go from 4 to 8 teams. But it's any time nowadays in particular, Mark, someone publicly does something different, bucks whatever the prevailing winds are, momentum, wisdom, whatever. And right now, the prevailing winds are all going in a certain direction when it involves college athletics. And it's all going to canceling, postponing, pushing back. That's where everything's been going here for the last week and a half. Greg Sankey yesterday, and he implied that the other two conferences who haven't announced are on board. We're kind of in this together. I mean, first off, Bob Bowlesby in the Big 12 has said that their intention right now is full steam ahead.
And when we reported yesterday that Oklahoma wanted to move their first game up a week, that should let you know exactly what the Big 12 thinks. Because Oklahoma's not going to attempt to do that without letting at least the commissioner of the conference know what they're up to.
And to take this also into consideration, not that they would ever say this publicly, all right, but ESPN is completely behind what if the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 want to go full steam ahead.
Absolutely.
I mean, they got an SEC network, they got an ACC network, they got a Longhorn network, they got contracts with all three conferences. Okay, right now they don't have where in the world are they going to have game day from? What games are they going to air on a Saturday night? Never mind on any of the other networks that they have the first few weeks.
Right. And you did mention, you did very properly, and you did mention the ACC network. By the way, they just launched this sucker
last year.
Yeah. And they're sitting there going, really? I've got nothing. I've got a network that we just started and there's nothing to put. They don't even have any back stuff. They can't even run, the greatest Big Ten teams ever and talk about the Maryland basketball team.
Right. The Big Ten network's now running the Len Bias documentaries. They can't even run that stuff anymore. Lefty Drizel, Big Ten legend. The ACA lost that material. Oh, boy. But you know what we're getting at. 479-5551, 479-5551, the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line.
For the record, David and I, upon finding the news out about the Big Ten, were both shocked. And when we got the text, John sent us the text last week. Nicole Arbach was the one who broke it for The Athletic. And I happened to be in the middle of doing something, so it took me a while to see my phone. We were floored that they did it as early as they did.
Yep.
And I said it yesterday, and we'll reiterate it for a while. The NHL had 47 different places they were going to play as hub cities. Vegas was a lock. We knew.
That was done.
We knew the NHL was playing in Las Vegas. NBA was going to Orlando. MLS was going to Orlando. Women's soccer, Utah. Women's basketball, IMG. And the NHL, for sure, was going to be in Vegas. Except for the NHL never said that they were going to be in Las Vegas. They said they were considering it, along with a lot of other host cities. Minneapolis was on that list. Columbus was on that list. And as things started to change, they said, you know what? Canada seems to have this under control. We're going to Canada.
Going north.
And right now they look like geniuses. And I think Sankey had to look at the NHL, David, versus the other leagues. And as everybody's making cancellations, Sankey's going, I have to believe that someone said, I know you don't even know what hockey is, Greg, but they seem to, by not doing anything, are being smarter than the other leagues right now. And at this moment in time, delaying your decision seems to be wise.
Yes. Yes.
Waiting as long as you can possibly wait seems like the smartest move because it is a fluid situation and things are changing rapidly.
Well, and I mean, if somebody were to make the argument we have to make a decision now, it's like, hold on, let's just talk this out. First off, have you seen the date on the calendar? Secondly, you do know we're pretty much going to go week to week once the season starts. I mean, let's just talk this out. Everybody plays. Then what are we going to do? We're going to test. Then we're going to see, all right, who can play again the next week. And if it's okay, we're going to play next week. And if there's a particular team that has an issue, then that game may get canceled or postponed. And they may have to take that week off. And we'll play all the other games that week. So we're going week to week. I mean, literally, we're going to go week to week. At all levels of football, I believe.
And
all levels.
And remember, Oklahoma moved the idea for Oklahoma to move their game up was so that they had 2 weeks between games 1 and 2 and 2 weeks between game 2 and 3.
Well, a week.
Or a week. But
an off week. But yeah, you're right.
But yeah, essentially 14 days between games. That's their reason of moving it up.
Right. And then we'll play, we'll test, we'll see where we're at. Then we'll play, okay, we'll test, and we'll see where we're at. And okay, hopefully we're in good shape, and we've kind of gotten the season rolling, and all right, let's go.
And, if Kevin Warren, who's the commissioner of the Big Ten, great bar bet right now, trying to know that, not answer Jim Delaney.
That's a fantastic bar bet.
But if Kevin Warren came out tomorrow and said, we made a mistake. Talked to all of our university presidents, and I've talked to all the schools we're going to play, and, we don't know if we're going to play non-conference games, but we've decided we're going to wait 2 more weeks. He'd look like a fool. But if he'd have said nothing, there would be no problem. Because right now, I don't think Kevin Warren and the Big Ten can walk back what they did.
Oh, no. They've made their decision. And then the Pac-12 immediately afterwards said, well, hey, once again, we're in lockstep with the Big Ten for more than just the Rose Bowl. All right, guys. Okay. And you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe you and the Ivy League and the Patriot League and others, you know what? Maybe you're the smart ones. And you're going to end up right, and you're going to be able to make fun of those other conferences. But then again,
you could be wrong.
Could be wrong. And you made your decision the first full week of July. The other conferences, according to Greg Sankey, the other 3 Power 5 conferences, they're going to chill out for another 14 to 17 days. They're going to see what happens. But we'll reiterate it again. Jamie Pollard, athletic director, Iowa State. Miller and Moulton are wrong about a lot of things, but we have maintained from the very beginning, they are going to try like hell to play. Public safety be damned. Now, some people disagree with me on that. All right, but I think they are willing. I mean, Greg Sankey kind of talked about this yesterday. There's a level of risk we are willing to assume, because there are staggering financial ramifications. Staggering. Now, should we be accepting that risk? That's a great topic. That's a great debate in and of itself. But, Greg Sankey was being a realist yesterday. Greg Sankey's like, hey, listen, we need to play, and it's catastrophic if we don't. And the AD at Iowa State said $40 million if we don't just play in the fall.
Louisiana Monroe loses $3.25 million by not playing Arkansas and Georgia. 1.75 from the Dogs, 1.5 from Arkansas. That's 2 games. What do you think their whole university budget is for the year? $20 million?
You think they can replace $3.25 million? No, because they're losing money with the $3.25 million.
And the other side of this is that Iowa State flat out said the money they're going to lose from just a student fee standpoint. Skip the athletic department. They are going to lose up to $40 million in the student fees department. Kids aren't going to be on campus.
Pete Haley, as we switch gears, we'll go back to the Redskins story. He covers them for NBC Sports Washington. We'll talk to Pete Haley next. Today was the day when, in a little more than 20 minutes' time. Pat Kerwin, 1 hour from now. Miller and Moulton, thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
This is The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
But here we are with a basketball season about to take place in about a month. And my prediction, it's going to be choppy. At times it's going to be bad. It's going to be unpredictable. It's going to be uneven. And what you saw with Avery Bradley.
Did you hear what Kyle Lowry said yesterday?
No.
The first little
was asked about, the bubble and all the restrictions and this, that, and the other thing. Kyle Lowry looked right out and said, everything's going to be fine. And I just think that that's the attitude of that whole team. From the head coach on down, we'll be okay. We'll figure this out. They came to Naples. They were all in shape. They were in a good frame of mind. They embraced it. Hotel, Alico Arena, back to the hotel. They were fine. Bus to Orlando, check into the hotel. This is where we're going to be for the next, 3 months. Oh, okay. We'll be all right.
Featuring Ram Bighorn Crew Cabs for $2.99 per month at Galliana Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1/2 mile south of Daniels.
I'm telling you, they got a real shot.
Including Sunday. Call 239-481-2600. GallianaCars.com. 42 monthly leases, 10,000 miles per year, $32.94 due at signing plus tax. 0 security deposit, $13.88 per month per thousand borrowed for 72 months at 0% APR with 0 down with lender approval. Offers don't combine.
Hardee's presents the new spicy Western Bacon Cheeseburger. It's just like the Western Bacon Cheeseburger with charbroiled beef, crispy bacon and onion rings, and topped with tangy barbecue sauce. But we added spicy jalapenos and melty pepper jack cheese. We took a burger that was already delicious and spiced it up. Why are we using this whip crack to explain it? Because jalapenos sound like this. Try the new spicy Western Bacon Cheeseburger at Hardee's. Feed your happy. Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary. Hardee's presents the Southwest Omelet, Biscuit, and Burrito. Wanted in 42 states on charges of bringing a sweat to the brow of breakfast lovers with low spice tolerance. We start with a made-from-scratch biscuit. And then we add a fluffy omelet full of melted cheese, crispy bacon, and spicy jalapenos. And if you're feeling extra wild, you can get it all wrapped up in a burrito. The Southwest Omelet, Biscuit, and Burrito are back, only at Hardee's. Feed your happy. Limited time only at participating Hardee's restaurants. Price and participation may vary.
Let's face it, these are stressful times. New routines, the constant bombardment of bad news, and trying to keep you and your family safe all the time. It's Frank for Center for Men's Health. During these stressful times, your mood is so critical, and nothing's more important to a guy's mood than testosterone. The single greatest issue for guys with low T is mood. And the single greatest change for men that get low T care is a greatly improved mood. Many are grumpy when they start, and most can't believe how much their mood improves once they get treated. And everything improves once your mood improves. Feel the difference C4MH.com can make in your life. I've been a patient of C4MH.com for a couple of years, and recently I've lost 20 pounds because now I have the energy to work out from home. And that'll put you in a good mood too. C4MH.com's Express Treatment Plan is convenient, affordable, and above all, safe. And with locations all up and down West Florida, there's one near you right now. Find out more. Go to C4MH.com.
Hysterical. Didn't realize they're ripping that whole TikTok thing down. Or they're talking about it.
Because of China?
Yeah. I was telling you, one of my better friends in the world, Dave Miller, his son has 1 million followers on TikTok. He's 16. Can't get money till you're 18. And Dave's texting me, he goes, he's got 1 million followers. So I can't even, he went to a rally in Portland for a BLM or something. And people are pointing at him, running up to take their picture with Noah.
Who?
My buddy's kid on TikTok.
Wow.
His sister goes to some liberal college in California. I can't remember which, but she's in college, and they're like, I don't know, they're talking, and her friends follow her brother. That's your brother? I follow him on TikTok. He's gorgeous. Yeah, he's 16. he's a model. He's a great. Looks like David Bowie would be the look I would. I mean, very unique. Oh shit! We got a guest. I hate this.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
And welcome back. It's 7:30. Thanks so much for being with us as we're halfway home on this Tuesday edition of Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming at millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and Twitch.tv channels. Today was the day one. Coming up in less than 20 minutes, Pat Kerwin coming up in a little less than an hour from now. If you want to chime into the show with a question or comment, you can do so by calling or texting in on the Williamson Brothers Marine and Roofing text and talk line at 479-5551, 479-5551. It's a pleasure to welcome Pete Haley. He covers the Redskins for NBC Sports Washington. You can follow Pete on Twitter at Pete Haley. That's Hailey. Pete Haley, NBCS. Pete, top of the morning to you. How are you and your family dealing with all this these days?
Family is good. Thank you for asking. They just are constantly checking in and seeing how I'm dealing with covering the football team I cover. I feel bad that they have to kind of worry about that. I'm like, there are bigger issues going on. I know it may not feel like that in D.C., but I try to remind them that, yeah, this stuff is fun and exciting, but, there are more important things going on, even though it may not feel like it at all times.
All right. Our poll question today is, what name will the Washington football team play as this year? Will they be the Redskins for the 2020 season? How long will this retirement last, if you will?
It's a good poll question. I actually was going through your guys' Twitter just to see what was going on, and I looked at that and I said, well, that's kind of silly. But then as I thought about it more in the couple minutes before you guys called me, I realized, it might be a decent question because we know how Dan Snyder loves this name, and we know how he's kind of had to be forced into changing it. And yesterday's announcement that they were retiring it came on a letterhead featuring the Redskins logo, featured the name 7 more times. So while they may be retiring it, they aren't doing it just yet. They aren't doing it until they settle on a new name. And there is kind of this chance that maybe they settle on something like Washington Football Club, Washington Football Team, and maybe they do roll with the Redskins in 2020 as one more kind of goodbye tour for the name in a way. It's going to be really hard for them to switch it. I've been talking to trademark lawyers. We've been talking to business executives, professors, people who are so much smarter than me. And the common takeaway is that this change is going to be really, really difficult to undertake in the few-week time frame that they're trying to do it. So to answer your poll, I'm still going to say it's going to be under another name. I just don't think they can roll with Redskins after all the backlash that's really been piling up. But it's not as silly as a question as I first thought it was, at least.
Well, and also, we've become over time, we've become conditioned, Pete, to look for, the entire quote. And they said they're retiring the name and logo upon completion of the review process. Well, as you just mentioned, this whole trademark, copyright, social media platform thing, this could take a while. What if the season starts, don't they have to have a name? I mean, either you've got to have this all done, every single aspect of it done before September 13th, or don't you have to play the season as the Redskins? And I do think that since you've announced, hey, this is it, I think they could play this year as the Redskins and not get too much grief.
Yeah, you're right. I think knowing that there's now an end date on this thing could buy them some time. And, there have been some reports coming from guys at ESPN who are saying the name thing should be buttoned up by the end of the week. But then again, there are reports that the name thing would be ended on Monday. They wouldn't just end Redskins. They would introduce the new name, and that didn't happen. So it's hard to kind of gather what Dan Snyder is precisely thinking. And it seems like he's kind of leading this on his own. Ron Rivera's name has been mentioned in the press releases, but he's a coach who got here 6 months ago. I don't know how much power he truly is going to have in determining the name of a franchise that's been around for 90 years. So you're right, that press release, it went out and everybody said, oh, that's it, Redskins is done. But there was that caveat until the review is completed. And this review is kind of going on at its own pace with its own few people who aren't really sharing what's happening. So again, I think if push comes to shove and they don't settle on the new name because of some issues, I think they'll just be Washington. But Dan Snyder has been very unpredictable in his life, and this is something he holds near and dear to his heart. So if he's going to, do something totally unforeseen that no one expects, this would be the time to do it and just say, all right, Redskins for 2020, whatever else for 2021 and beyond. But I'm just not buying that that's going to happen yet, although I do understand that there could be a case for it.
And I just happened to work at a building that changed its naming rights many years ago in this town. And it's not easy. I mean, logistically, there's a lot of crap that's got to get done to change a name, and it just doesn't happen with the snap of a fingers. And that's why, whether it's Washington football team or their Redskins for 2020, I still think the possibility exists. The one thing that's for certain, whatever team name they are this year, the odds are they're not going to be that good. Does Dan Snyder not want the last year of the Redskins to be with the chance to be the first overall pick? But that's where they've been. When from a football standpoint, is there anything that we're missing? I mean, only Carolina, Pete, has a lower win total according to Vegas. Is there something we're missing? Is there something you see that others don't that could give the Washington football fan reason for hope this year?
Yeah, and I think it starts at quarterback with Dwayne Haskins, and this kind of seems to be the biggest gap between the national opinion of Washington Football Club or Redskins. I'm trying to get used to that, so sorry if I'm trying to work it out. This seems to be the biggest gap between the national view and the local view, is that Dwayne Haskins is in a really good place. And I know people are going to point to the offense and how lacking it is in terms of weapons. I'm not going to deny that. But for Haskins himself, I know his rookie year wasn't good if you look at straight up box score statistics, and I'm not going to be one of those guys who says, you have to look at these crazy analytics. He was actually really good in the third quarter when the wind was blowing 10 miles per hour. It's not that deep. He was in a really tough situation with the coaching staff who didn't like him. It was hard for him to kind of break into the lineup. His first 2 games, he came in as a replacement. His numbers looked awful. But in the final 3 games, he really put things together. He looked like a true first-round draft pick. And his touchdown interception ratio improved, his yardage improved. And I think now that he knows he's going to be the starter, he has slightly better weapons. They aren't great, but they are better. He has a coaching staff around him that's going to support him. I think Dwayne is poised for a really surprising season, and I think that could make the Redskins better than people think. And also, as you guys know, Chase Young is here now, and I'm expecting his impact to be on this team tremendous. So the 2 building blocks, one on offense, one on defense, quarterback, pass rush, 2 most important positions, I think those are going to make the Redskins better than people think. I'm not saying they're, going to be 9-7, but I think, their 4 or 5 win total feels a little bit low. I could see them getting to 6 or 7 pretty easily.
Pete, they could be pretty darn good on defense, though. Like, to me, when Mark was asking you the question, what is it that people could be missing? The problem is they can't keep anybody healthy. I mean, have they just been victims of bad luck, or have, they had to redo their entire training methods? Because I don't know if there's been a franchise in the last 3 years that's had the injuries that the Redskins have had, but I mean, when I look defensively, they've got good personnel if they can ever put them on the field for any stretch of time.
Yeah, so I didn't go with defense in the answer to the previous question just because people in this area at least are very excited about the defense. They think they can be top 10 or top 5. So you guys are kind of asking for a surprising thing. I agree with you. I think the defense could be really strong. I think their front 7 is stacked. It's by far the best area on the team, and I think it's something that, compares favorably to the rest of the NFL. I don't think it's just me seeing the only team is the Redskins saying, oh, that's good front 7. I think they would compare favorably to almost any group. As for the injuries, you're right. I mean, I saw a tweet. It's not just the past couple of years. Over the past decade, the Redskins have been more affected by injuries. They've lost more man games because of injuries more than any other team in the NFL. So it's been an enormous problem. It's really gotten worse in the past couple of years. It kind of tanked Jay Gruden's tenure here. He just, by the end of the seasons, he was dealing with guys who are coming up from the practice squad who weren't even signed and were just coming in on Tuesday and playing on Sunday. They've tried to address it with different training methods. They now have a completely new training staff. Thanks to Ron Rivera's arrival, he brought in a guy with him from Carolina who seems to be one of the most respected trainers in the league. So I expect it to be better. And at some point, you just got to regress to the mean and get to an average amount of injuries. It's been so above average for so long. I would hope between that fact and the training staff, they can keep the guys on the field and then, use this defense with the starting 11 instead of starting 8 and then 3 guys who are being signed. So it would help them, of course, to be a lot more healthy in 2020.
Pete, when you look at Ron Rivera, and you'd mentioned he's been here 6 months, but yet he's now the only one giving quotes. Snyder's been silent. They finally got rid of Allen, which made people happy. Is this Ron Rivera's team? I mean, Snyder doesn't like to stay out too much, but from the appearances, this is all Ron Rivera right now. Is that accurate?
Quick correction. They got rid of Bruce Allen, which didn't make people happy. It made them rejoice and throw parades across the city. It was kind of like the 4th of July. I think there's fireworks going off. So he is the biggest enemy ever in this area. So they're glad to see him. As for Ron, it's wild to see how much power he has kind of accrued in 6 months. I know I said I'm not sure how much he's driving this name change, but in terms of everything else, he's brought in so many guys from Carolina to kind of build a staff around him, front office, coaching staff, etc. And he is just one voice that is leading this team. Between Bruce when he was here, Jay Gruden, and Doug Williams, it's always kind of been this mix of people at the podium for various pressers, various signings, and all that. Since Ron has gotten in, he has just taken over complete control. He is so confident. He's so poised. I've just been truly, truly impressed by him. And I think his presence is going to be great for this team as long as he doesn't get too overloaded with stuff. There are reports coming out that he feels, a little bit stretched thin thanks to the fact that there are no real team presidents or GMs right now. And having to deal with things like the name matter could make him kind of, a little stressed. But I think Ron can handle it, and I think it's a fair thing to kind of point out. It's been remarkable to see just how much Dan Snyder has grown to trust him in 6 months, and it seems like it's Ron Rivera's franchise, and he's pulling all the strings, which is cool to see. And I think a big reason why he came to Washington to help out a team that's seen as so chaotic, because he knew, I'm going to have a lot of power here, and I'm going to be able to use it the way I want to.
He's Pete Haley. He covers the Redskins for NBC Sports Washington. You can follow Pete on Twitter at Pete Haley, Hailey, NBCS. Pete Haley, NBCS. Is there a name that the community would prefer? We've all seen them. Red Tails, Red Hawks, Warriors, you name it. Is there a consensus name that people would prefer this team become?
I am very glad you went through that list, because you're missing the one that's gaining steam big time amongst fans, and it is the Washington Red Wolves. Yes, the Red Wolves. It's a name I kind of, rolled my eyes at first. It sounds like a 5th grade basketball team that my nephew would come up with the name and they'd run out and roar and growl on defense. But we had Fred Smoot on, former Redskins corner, to kind of make his case for the name. He's kind of been driving this whole movement, and the past week or so, it's blown up among fans. And I'm kind of in on the Red Wolves, guys. I think the logo could be cool. I think the jerseys could be different. I think the name itself is pretty unique. You only have the Timberwolves in the NFL. And I think most importantly, the stadium can turn into a real atmosphere again. You can call it something like the Wilderness. You can have fans howling after third down. There are a lot of things you can do to kind of make Red Wolves your own. And I also think it's resonating with the 20-year-old fan, the 25-year-old fan, the 15-year-old fan who's going to be escalating into purchasing power and being an adult as this name change kind of takes place. So do I think they're going to go Red Wolves? No, because I'm not sure Dan Snyder really cares about the public opinion on social media. And since it's kind of a late comer to the conversation, I don't know if he was really considering it first. If I had to guess, I would say Warriors, because Dan's always liked that name, and that's just kind of a simpler, more traditional name for a sports team. But I personally love the Red Wolves. I'm all in, and I'm going to be a little bit sad if that isn't the choice.
Well, Fred Smoot's been a frequent guest of this show for a long, long time. And if there's a better sales pitch man out there than Fred Smoot, I don't know who it is. Because, you said that, and I'm like, book him for tomorrow. I want to hear his story, because there's nobody that could sell a name better than Fred Smoot. So, I'd like to hear the pitch, because I think I'd be in right away.
Oh, you should absolutely do that. That'll be your best booking of the week, and I'm saying that insulting myself. I cannot beat Fred Smoot. You guys will love it. He was absolutely tremendous on it. So energetic as usual. He could have called them, the Washington Toilets, and I would have, probably been on board, speaking to the way he's such a good salesman. But the way he has attached himself to the Red Wolves moniker and the way people are kind of following his lead has been really funny and special to see the past couple of days. So get Fred, and you will too join the Red Wolves movement.
Pete, thanks for agreeing to do this, particularly at this hour. All the best to you and the family. Stay safe, and hopefully this saga will end soon, and you can go back to covering football.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me. And yeah, all I do is cover sagas. I would love to just cover some football. So hopefully it ends soon, as you said. Thanks,
soon.
Guys.
Thanks, Pete.
Pete Haley, who covers the now Redskins for NBC Sports Washington. Follow Pete on Twitter, Pete Haley, Hailey, Pete Haley, NBCS. If they go with Warriors, though, there's already the same groups that have wanted them to change the name from Redskins have already come out and said, but not to Warriors.
Why?
That they will find that they don't want anything that has any connotation, any connection at all to the Native American community. They deem it as an insult. That they came out yesterday and said this, which surprised me. Okay, and then somebody asked them, well, what about the Golden State Warriors? And they said, well, we don't believe that it was named that for, this reason. So they would view it's what they said. There's one group in particular that said if they go with Warriors, we will see it as just a way to get around Redskins, but do the same thing. So
okay. All right, that's fantastic. Good for you. I'm looking at the Merriam-Webster definition: a person engaged or experienced in warfare. What the hell does that have to do with the Native American?
Hey,
what the? No, come on, enough. Enough, for Christ's sake. This is ridiculous.
Hey, I'm just telling you what the group said. That's all. I'm just telling you what the group said. You got to figure the NFL's got to sign off on this, right? So that's all. That's all. Just throwing it out there. 13 minutes before the hour. Today
Where's Fred Smoot?
Maybe on tomorrow's show. I'll tell you what, a hell of an 8 o'clock hour if it's Fred Smoot and Seth Everett.
Wow.
Smoke them if you got them right there. Pat Kerwin coming up in about 40 minutes' time. Today was the day when next.
English muffins for everybody. Fox Sports Radio. So, Seth, Dante Stallworth, as you're well aware, killed a person driving a vehicle about 10, 12 years ago. And he got 28 days in jail. So David and I are doing afternoons. And I simply say, I guarantee you that there are people listening to this show right now that have done more time than Dante Stallworth. So we get a guy calls in the show who had served 30 days or whatever. And we get him on the air, and they're like, so you served more than 28 days? Yes, sir. Moulton, without missing a beat, says, you ever kill a guy? And this guy's response was, no, sir. It's the best question Moulton's at. Did you ever kill a guy? No, sir. So that's our Dante Stallworth story, Seth. And we had that, Casio had that saved forever and just randomly would throw in, did you ever kill a guy? No, sir.
Hardee's presents the new spicy Western Bacon Cheeseburger. It's just like the Western Bacon Cheeseburger with charbroiled beef, crispy bacon, and onion rings, and topped with tangy barbecue
Hey,
sauce.
Tony Stewart killed a guy and didn't do any days, so wasn't even found guilty.
We took a burger that was already delicious and spiced it up. Why are we using this whipped cream?
Hops, exactly.
Sound like this.
It was. I swear I wish we had that. Of all the sounders, I wish we had that.
Southwest omelet, biscuit, and burrito. Wanted in 42 states on charges of bringing a sweat to the brow of breakfast lovers with low spice tolerance. We start with a made-from-scratch biscuit, and then we add a fluffy
Well,
full of melted cheese, crispy bacon.
No, when Casio got fired, he was out before we could pull anything, and then most of our history at that place is gone, Seth. There's really no acknowledgement that we worked there.
someone says we need to talk, well, here it goes. We need to talk, but don't panic. This is a good kind of talk. Those glasses and contacts you're sporting, they're just in the way of you having the freedom to...
Yeah, Seth, there's so much stuff that we don't have from nothing. If we get fired, there's now that there's some podcasts, but without Act 2, there's really no existence of the first act of our show. There's no tapes, there's no audio, there's nothing. Other than the news press story. I mean, that's probably the only existence of Act 1 that is out there. You're right. I tried to get him to go to the Christmas parties, Hops. I tried every year. Now I get to have one. And now with COVID, who knows if there's a Christmas party this year? Try to get the Moultons out of the house for a dinner.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not happening. That's tough to imagine. Maybe outside.
Right now we have 90 colors of Cortec in stock, ready to go pick up, put down as soon as you want.
No kids this year, though. I'll tell you that if we do one. No kids.
What do you mean? No kids.
No kids. No kids if we do one this year. Babysitters. No, it's an adult thing.
Huh. Better talk to your wife.
Oh, I know. She loves kids. I know. That's probably the only reason that she's attended. She wanted to see the kids.
Have a Zoom party.
Oh, God. I have one more Zoom something.
I've got it set up, Seth. I don't know if it shows it, because it doesn't really show that you're hosting me. But I've got it set up. Every time you go on, I ghost host it. We've never had an adults-only party, Seth. Our Christmas party last year was at a Japanese steakhouse, and John's son was there, and my daughter was there, and apparently Moulton now doesn't want kids.
Oh. Oh, I want it to be an adult thing. Although your daughter's impeccably behaved.
We're live.
Miller and Moulton, thanks so much for being with us at 8 minutes before 8 o'clock. Pat Kerwin coming up in a little more than a half an hour. Time now for...
Moulton's Today Was the Day When, giving you the history of today's date so you're a beacon of useless knowledge around the office.
Useless, but a lot of fun to talk about.
This is Today Was the Day When, Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
I just like this story. I don't know how relevant it is in the sports world, but it's one of those days when you go to the locker room after the game, you're in the clubhouse, and Lou Boudreau probably felt pretty good because it was in 1946 that Cleveland was playing Boston, and Boudreau had 4 doubles and a home run in the game.
Wow.
The problem was Teddy Ballgame had 3 home runs, 8 RBI, and the Red Sox win 11-10. 4 doubles and a home run, and you are second fiddle, brother.
I was going to say, and you're not the player of the game.
No.
They aired a Cubs-Cardinals game on MLB Network over the weekend where Willie McGee, had 5 hits in the game and what have you. The problem was Sandberg had 5 hits too, and 2 of them were homers. And Bob Costas joked, and McGee's not even the player of the day.
1951, the first color broadcast of a sporting event. It was the Hollywood Gold Cup, in which Citation, the 48 Triple Crown champ, great interview, by the way, became America's first racing millionaire horse, winning the Hollywood Gold Cup.
And you said in 51?
51. First color telecast of a sporting event. 1967, Herman's Hermits go out on a world tour. You probably, half of you don't even know who that band is. Their opening act, The Who. How do you think the crowd was for the Herman's Hermits after The Who played and Keith Moon's breaking drum sets? 1968, Hank hits his 500th home run off of Mike McCormick against the Giants. 1969, Easy Rider debuts, in which Dennis Hopper directs and stars. Nicholson was pretty good in that, too.
By the way, think about it. In 68, Hank hits 500. He gets into the 700s by 73. He put quite a little 5-year run up on the board there.
1969, the United States takes the 500, 1,000, 5,000, and 10,000 bills out of circulation.
I thought you were talking swimming there, but interesting.
1972, the home plate umpire, Bill Haller, the catcher, his brother, Tom Haller. And even with that, the Tigers lose. Haller, the catcher for the Tigers. KC wins 1-0. 73 at Royal Troon, Weisskopf wins his only major. 3 shots ahead of Neil Coles and Johnny Miller. 1974, Billy Martin becomes the first American League manager ejected by an umpire from 2 games in 1 day. 83, Mario Brothers is released by Nintendo as an arcade game. 1985, the last USFL game, the Baltimore Stars defeat the Oakland Invaders 28-24. 1986, Vince Neil starts his 30-day stint for vehicular homicide.
Boy, although he did more time than Dante Stallworth.
He did by 2 days. If you were born today, you share your birthday with William Hanna. It's the voice of Scooby-Doo. Gerald Ford, 38th president, born today in 1913. Lee Elder, born today in 1934, first African-American to play in the Masters. Robin Ventura, born today in 1967. And Conor McGregor is 32 years old today.
And Ventura, a lot of people remember him for his charging of the mound and his fight with Nolan Ryan. But Robin Ventura in college had a hitting streak longer than DiMaggio's. I think he got to 58 or something like that. That's how.
So did Nolan Ryan on Ventura's head.
Oh, stop it.
It's the greatest ass whooping in the history of the sport.
You know what? He just gave him a bunch of noogies. Honestly, it was not nearly as big an ass whooping as people imagine. He just put him in a headlock and then, roughed him up a little bit. That's all. Miller and Moulton. Pat Kerwin coming up in the 8 o'clock hour.
We'll see if he roughs up Miller or Moulton. Thanks for listening. Fox Sports Radio.
It's Kaylee Kobe with your
All right, I need a coffee
tip of the
refill.
day.
Talk
It's
about
summertime, so it's hot.
All right.
Make sure you change your AC
Since Mark did last break, I'll do this one.
and have your air
All right.
conditioners cleaned twice a year by Nate certified mechanic.
That's right. Nolan Ryan said, come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40. You just put him in a headlock. It's kind of like the hockey fight where the one guy has his jersey pulled up on him, and, what can he do? The jersey's on his arms. He can't see anything. He can't free his arms. Really, that's what Nolan Ryan did. Ventura came at him, and he just put him in a headlock, and he just, banged the top of his head. He didn't beat him up all that badly. It's funny, though, in baseball circles, Ventura got a lot of respect for that because there are people inside the game who have thought for a long time that Nolan Ryan headhunted and threw inside for as hard as he could throw. Just didn't appreciate the way he pitched sometimes. And, Nolan was trying to make sure he could have the inside part of the plate, and he threw up and in. And it bothered people. And when Nolan, and there were times when, they thought Nolan would hit people on purpose. And Ventura certainly felt that. That's why he charged him out. There are a lot of people in baseball that patted him on the back and said, hey, good for you. Way to stick up for us. We're tired of that old man doing that to us. Those fastballs hurt.
High school sports teach young people how to be
So,
effective leaders.
Nolan was amazing, though.
To listen, accepting responsibility.
And no, I don't think anyone has suggested DC superheroes. No. I have a feeling the NFL might have a problem with that. The Washington Redskins become the DC superheroes. So,
WFSX AM from Naples to Cape Coral and all of Southwest Florida. 105.9 Fox Sports Radio.
the baseball season is about 2 weeks away from starting. Actually, it's a week away. A week from Thursday. How many of you are excited about it? Yeah, you're right, Seth. I think Warner Brothers would probably have a problem with DC superheroes unless they got a piece. Yep, Oklahoma State, Robin Ventura. I thought it was 58 games, his college hitting streak. And DiMaggio's was 56. Yeah, I'm not excited about the upcoming baseball season at all. And I actually think my team could do a lot of damage. But Juan's looking forward to baseball. Hell, I heard the Marlins, Mike Hill, their team president, gave an interview yesterday in which he said, hey, with our pitching, believe it or not, we could contend for 60 games in the NL East. Okay.
There's only one way to wake up in the morning.
Dan Orlovsky just tweeted out something pretty interesting. Just a quarterback thing. If you want to, I don't know, a little football thing.
Yeah.
Taking a pretty good shot at Prescott. Watched my first MLS game last night. Speaking of fake sound, Seth, oh my God, it's stupid. Stupid. And it was actually, I mean, they scored. It was like a 3-2 game or whatever, the Houston-LA game. It was not bad. In and around the hip-hop documentary I was watching.
Your life.
And as we approach a couple minutes past 8 o'clock, top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Hope your week is off to a good start. Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday, the 14th of July. Thanks so much for being with us. Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio. Streaming once again, are we, at millerandmoulton.com. That's where you can get our podcasts. Brought to you by Connecticut. It's where you can vote in our poll question, millerandmoulton.com. Our poll question today, simply, what will the name of the NFL team in Washington be this year? Will they play as the Redskins or will they play as something else? I believe they're going to play as the Redskins for a final swan song. I'm in the minority.
I didn't think you were right initially, and I just went back and forth all day yesterday.
Oh, you were waffling like crazy on
I really was. I was a politician yesterday.
You still are. Fortunately, have you voted yet? Has the time come that you have to go to the floor and vote? Or can you continue to just do interviews on one network saying one thing and on another network saying another?
Exactly. I just put the poll question up, David. I don't have to answer it.
You're going to abstain. You're going to do 13 interviews, but you're going to abstain. Gotcha.
Exactly.
We know who some of those people are.
All right. Let me give you a real football question about actual statistics and players as opposed to names and new names and what names aren't going to be. Dan Orlovsky, who started his broadcast career on this show.
We did have him on a regular basis.
We had him on a lot because he wanted to get reps. And that's not a joke. Dan wanted to get into this. Dan needed reps, needed to do interviews. And he came on regularly and was really good. And all of a sudden, he's blossomed quite a bit over at the other network. But he put out a tweet here about a half hour ago, David. There are 4 quarterbacks in the NFL over the last 2 seasons that have more turnovers than touchdowns versus playoff teams. Mitchell Trubisky.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield.
All right.
Jameis, because if it's any question about interceptions versus touchdowns, we all know that Jameis is on that list.
It actually should become his middle name, don't you think? That whenever he gets back to playing regularly in the NFL again, that we just introduce him as Jameis Turnover Winston?
I would say interception or pick. I like pick.
Well, but he does fumble a lot. He averages damn near a fumble a game.
It's a dadgum good point, David.
So that's why I don't.
No,
you
might
want
be
you
right.
To leave out the fumbles.
You might be right.
So Jameis Turnover Winston, JT as we call it.
So JTW, and Mitchell Trubisky, Baker Mayfield. The other one's Dak Prescott.
Huh.
I mean, this is the guy that's supposed to get all this money and be the future of the Cowboys. And he says, for me to pay you big money, I need you to be at your best when we play the best. Oh, I think that's a very accurate statement. And I've never been a Dak guy. You were the one coming out of the draft that liked him. So you were
liked him a lot.
You were right. There's no denying where you were on it. But I don't know if you think he is a upper tier franchise quarterback.
The big debate, internet, social media, is just in the NFC East. Who would you take, Wentz or Dak? And I love Dak. I'd take Carson Wentz all day. All day. All day, I'd take Carson Wentz. All day. Every day. All right, but that's the big debate. And they're paid, Wentz got his 32 and change, and there's a lot of people that believe that Dak wants at least as much as what Wentz and Goff got. Come on now. But when Dak played Goff in a playoff game, Goff and the Rams won. This is the point Orlovsky's making. Now, Mark, how much of it is Dak leading to these results, and how much of it is just the Cowboys putting Dak in a bad spot? The one thing Dallas has not done a lot of is beat good teams in recent years. It doesn't mean they can't average 10 wins a year for the last 4 years, because they have, but they don't beat a lot of good ones. How many playoff games have they won during Dak's 4 years? Okay. 1. That's kind of the point. Now, he played really well in a shootout loss at home to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, his rookie year of 2016. But they don't make the playoffs last year, where all it would have taken was 9-7 to get in. But Dak got hurt and didn't play well at the end of the year.
Well, I think that is the ultimate thing, because, apparently Dak had a lot more injury than we know of last year, that he was playing through a lot of pain.
Right. He should not have played against the Eagles. I mean, if they had a competent backup quarterback, I feel confident in saying if the same situation, Mark, were to happen this year, Andy Dalton would play that game. They would just say, Dak, you can't throw. I mean, come on. You can't chuck the ball 20 yards downfield with any authority and any accuracy. And you haven't practiced all week. This is our biggest game of the year. We're playing Andy Dalton. Get ready for the finale against the Redskins and or the playoffs. Okay, but Andy can win us this game. And I think that's part of why they made the move that they did at backup quarterback, that deep down Jerry knows if I had a backup quarterback, we would have won the division. We would have made the playoffs, and we might have been dangerous as you know what.
And it's not like there haven't been people on this show telling him to get a backup quarterback for at least 5 years. I mean,
look what happens. He has Dak. Tony gets hurt. It saves the season. Hell, they were the 1 seed at 13-3.
And it's why Dak has all of this momentum. I mean, that's the year, because since then it's 9-7, 10-6, 8-8. It's not bad, but it's not great. But he came out of the chute with that 13-3 year, and you're like, whoa.
They don't make the playoffs at 9-7. They make it at 10-6. They win a home playoff game, a close game against Seattle. He did beat Russell Wilson in Seattle, and he played pretty well. All right, and then last year down the stretch, they were 6-4, and they faltered, losing 4 of 6 to end the season. But remember, tomorrow's the deadline. That's another reason why I think Orlovsky put out that tweet. Tomorrow's franchise tag deadline, in which if the Cowboys and Dak don't work out a long-term deal by tomorrow, he's got to play this year on the tag. And you can only tag a guy twice, which means that they will have tagged Dak, obviously, for 2020. And then Dak may just pull a Kirk Cousins. Dak may just say, I'll play this out. I'll play 2021 on a tag also. And then force you to either pay me or I'll go somewhere else. And then we get into the Mahomes contract, Deshaun Watson in theory in the next year. If Dak's playing this season on a tag, let's talk about the quarterbacks that may get deals. Mahomes has already gotten one. We think that Deshaun Watson is going to get a deal before Jerry and Dak can sit down and start negotiating again. And there will be arguments on both sides. Dak will look at what Mahomes is making and Watson is making per year on average and go, told you, Jerry, I should be making more. And Jerry will go, yeah, did you see how long they both signed for?
And Jerry can also look at him dead in the eye and go, Deshaun Watson just wins the division every year. Patrick Mahomes has won a Super Bowl. I can't get into the playoffs with you, Dak.
Right. I don't want to insult you, but you're not them.
You're not close.
You're right. They're top 5 in the league. You know, the one guy might be the best player in the league. The other guy's a top 5 quarterback. I mean, honestly, if
Dak, go ask all your friends who'd they draft first. Just put the 3 on a list, because you'd be last every time, Dak.
If you took Mahomes and Russell Wilson off the plate, and you had the choice of all the other quarterbacks in the league, and you said to 32 general managers, we've taken those 2 out of the equation. Next 5 years, who would you want your quarterback to be? I think Deshaun would get more votes than anybody else. I think because of Aaron Rodgers' age, he'd actually get more votes than Aaron Rodgers. I think he'd get more votes than Lamar Jackson. And I think he'd get more votes than any of the quarterbacks that came, Mark, in the class of 2018. And I know Lamar was part of that class, but he was at the bottom of the first round. Any of the ones that were taken in the top 10 there, I believe Deshaun Watson would get the most votes. I think NFL GMs right now would view him as the third. Projecting out 5 years, they would say, you know what? I mean, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, and some others, maybe on a given day they might be better today. But if I'd have a quarterback for the next 5 years, I'd want Mahomes and I'd want Russell Wilson, and then I'd want Deshaun. That's how I think the vote would go.
I don't know where Dak would finish in that. And I'm just kind of going through names. You know, you'd probably, would you take Dak or Jimmy G?
Dak.
Dak or Matt Ryan?
For the 5 years?
Yeah.
Or this year?
No, for 5 years.
5 years, I'd probably go Dak.
Kyler Murray or Dak?
See, you know, I just... If I'm doing fantasy, I'd take Kyler. But if I'm doing the NFL, I'd take Dak. And that one could come back and bite me. There are a lot of people that believe that Kyler Murray is going to be amazing, actually.
Yeah, you've already said you'd take Wentz.
Well, I would over Dak. I mean, I'm sorry. He's a better quarterback. He hasn't. Now, Dak's been more durable. Dak has started every game. He has. And goodness knows, I don't poo-poo that at all. At all. I mean, as a franchise quarterback, to be there every single game, trust me, your team looks at you to be there. I'm not trying to poo-poo that at all. Okay? And Wentz has not been there for every game.
He has not.
At all. All right. But who do I think is the better quarterback? Oh, I think it's Carson Wentz. Dak's stats are tremendous, though. I mean, that's why Orlovsky criticizing Dak with stats. There are very few stats that you can do that with. I mean, Dak's numbers have been great. Those that are Dak fans can throw nothing but numbers at you, overwhelm you with numbers, all the yards and completion percentage and this, that, and the other thing.
No, I mean, really, his second year, he had a poor year. The 9-7 year, he had a poor year statistically. 22 touchdowns, 13 picks. His completion percentage was the lowest of his career, and it was 63. So that's the 1 year, 3,300 yards. That's the only year that you can look at stats and probably have him in a not favorable way. Because last year, you're right, nearly 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. The year before, 22 touchdowns, 8 interceptions.
You know, and just because you judge somebody as someone who's between 8 and 12 on the quarterback ranking does not mean that you don't think he's a really good quarterback. All right. I actually, though, support Jerry Jones on this one. If the reports are true and Jerry has said, hey, 5 for 175, 35 a year. By the way, that's more per year than Carson. That's more per year than Goff. Do you know who you're looking up at? Russell Wilson, and now Patrick Mahomes when his extension kicks in, and it doesn't kick in for 2 more years, by the way. The only quarterback, if he signed that deal right now, the only quarterback in the league making more than $35 million is Russell Wilson. I think Rodgers' deal averages out to 34. I mean, how are you going to criticize Jerry Jones for that? I mean, come on now. And reportedly, he's guaranteeing over $100 million of it. He's basically guaranteeing the first 3 years. I mean, 5 for 175. 105 of it guaranteed? Hey, I think it's a joke Jerry Jones is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. An absolute joke. All right, if there's a business wing to the Hall, fine. But, I mean, Jerry Jones' football acumen, to me, is laughable. I'm totally behind him on his negotiations with Dak. And I think this offseason, Mark, proved Dallas in the next couple of years can go find somebody if they need to. I mean, look at what became available this year.
And if you don't think, look, and I'm not saying that Kirk Cousins would be the answer for a couple of years or maybe Matt Stafford, but if you don't think at the end of careers for some of these quarterbacks that teams aren't going to just say, don't know what to tell you, we're done here, or quarterbacks aren't going to try to write their own way out the way Brady did to try to get to play for a winner at some point.
I mean, Mark, playing quarterback for the Cowboys is saying, you know what? I think I'm going to go play for the Yankees.
Yes.
Why? Well, because they're the Yankees. I mean, believe me, you're not going to have problems finding people to raise their hand if word gets out. I mean, think about it. They can enter next year at this time, and Dak and Jerry can't come to a long-term deal. You don't think agents are going to start back-channeling Jerry? Hell, they're going to call him directly. They're going to walk right up to him on the field at Cowboy Stadium and go, my guy will come here next year. Just say the word, it's done. You don't think Matthew Stafford's agent would look right at Jerry Jones and go, just say the word. Say the flippin' word. Kid grew up within 10 minutes of the stadium. Are you kidding me? Now, I'm not saying he'd be the long-term answer.
No.
But I think Jarrett could get by in 2022 and 2023 and get Dak-like production from his quarterback position. I do. If Dak won't take his money, by the way, the yogurt deals go away when you stop playing quarterback for the Cowboys.
And they've made that
right now.
Yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. So do the Lipton soup ads and all the other ads. You're not the quarterback of the Cowboys anymore.
No.
There's 10 to 15 million a year in being the Dallas Cowboy quarterback.
No state taxes, by the way. 35 a year. It's more than Goff. It's more than Wentz. They were drafted first and second overall in the same draft class as you. So don't tell me I'm not paying you. All right? I am paying you more. So I support Jerry in this one. I think Dak's a very good quarterback. I don't think he's a great quarterback. And I understand if you're in fantasy, he can produce great numbers for you. I got it. And whether it's his fault or not, you know what? Maybe it was Jason Garrett's fault. Maybe under Mike McCarthy, quite frankly, Dak and the Cowboys are just going to win.
What a great experiment we have right here.
Yeah.
I mean, we really do.
Yeah,
on all fronts. If Mike McCarthy is that much better than Jason Garrett, we all thought Jason Garrett's a really smart offensive guy, but for whatever reason, he couldn't get out of his own way. So if Mike McCarthy comes in, and David likes to use the phrase, we need an adult here. Well, Mike McCarthy is an adult NFL coach. Let's see what happens, because if he rights the ship and all of a sudden Dak looks more like the 13-3, 22-4 touchdowns, interceptions, well, then Dak can look at Jerry. They win the division. They go to an NFC title game this year. He can look right at Jerry and said, told you.
Here's the other thing. Let's look at the personnel Dak's had to play with. He's had one of the best offensive lines in football over the last 4 years. If you had to view it as a group for the last 4 years, he's had a top 5 offensive line. He's had Zeke, and he's had weapons on the outside. Now, they've been injured and they've been in and out of the lineup, but it's not like Dak hasn't had people to throw the ball to. I mean, Dak's played with really good players. Really good players. Now, the Cowboys, this could be Joe Flacco and the Ravens all over again. And this could come back to bite Dallas in a really big way. Because the Ravens looked at Joe Flacco in 2011 and 2012, and they're like, Joe, we love you. You're our franchise guy. But you want to get paid at the very top of the food chain. We can't do that. Sorry, you're not the top of the food chain. And Joe Flacco said, okay, I'll play this out.
And I'll bet on myself. I mean, that's what he did. I will bet on myself.
And his final year, he won a Super Bowl. And he turned around and looked at the Ravens and said, now what are you going to pay me? And they Well, they paid him. Now, and he never played to that level again. He, team around him, he got hurt, the whole deal. But they had to pay him. They had to pay him more than he was quote unquote worth because, well, they played hardball with him, and Joe went out and said, "Okay," and took him to the AFC title game in 2011 and won the Super Bowl in 2012. Joe Flacco should send Ray Rice, by the way, a check every day of the week for the rest of his life. There's a play. I don't know. Plays that we all forget in sports. The Ravens needed to win a late season game at San Diego against the Chargers in 2012, or they were done. They were out. And it's 4th and like 27. And Flacco, looking around. He's got plenty of time. He throws a dump off pass to Ray Rice. It's like 4th and 27.
Yep.
And Ray Rice makes 6 guys miss and runs over somebody and gets the first down by a foot. They go down, score, win the game, make the playoffs. A month later, they're Super Bowl champs. Joe Flacco gets $100 million. Ray Rice a year later is out of football, and we all know why. Joe Flacco should just send a check every month to Ray Rice and say, "Love you, man. Love you." Miller and Moulton. Pat Kerwin. We'll talk about a whole bunch of D linemen also still out there. Tomorrow's franchise tag day. What's going to happen, if anything, in the NFL in the next 24 or so hours. Pat Kerwin. Also about the Redskins name change here on Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Not asking one question on the name change.
So sit back and enjoy.
It's fun. It's the best.
Enjoy the banter.
Fox and Sports, that's the game.
Yes, Seth, you do need to bring a gift.
I would not think about ripping him. What are you talking about?
Enjoy all of this.
Love it. Embrace it. Then they're great. And let's not forget.
Because we're doing it all.
Chiro, is Mark's mic still low?
I turned it up.
Gotcha.
We're Fox Sports Radio.
Don't walk, ride to Galliana Kia in Fort Myers. New SUVs, just $199 per month. Galliana Kia is desperate for used cars, so we'll buy your car for cash. No questions asked. High mileage, cosmetic issues. We don't care. Galliana Kia needs your trade-in more, so we'll flat out give you more. Over mileage on your lease or upside down in your loan.
It's going to be like 3 months of shaming companies that got money. This is like the everyday thing now. Although the Bucs got $10.4 million for COVID-19 safety stadium upgrades, basically for the Super Bowl, they're saying.
No. Well, that'll be interesting. Let's just say we're just getting a vaccine the early part of 2021. Also, we have no idea what attendance is going to be like throughout 2020.
Hey, I mean, I don't mean to talk about Smarty that much, but I mean, when I talk to Pat, and he's like a season ticket holder going, I think it's relevant. He's like, there's no way I'm forking out that kind of money. So I can't sit with people. I can't hang out with people. He's like, why? Because I'll watch it on TV for a year.
Well, it's why I said yesterday, I actually applaud what the Jaguars did. They gave all their money back to all their season ticket holders. They said, hey, here you go. Now, we're going to sell about 17,000 seats a game. You want to be one of the 17,000? Sign up. Because I agree with your buddy.
Right.
You're not emotionally invested in the Bucs. You just bought the tickets to have them.
But to go to games, a little bit of an investment. They had a great schedule. I mean, this is one of those. Awesome. I blew it with LeBron. I had those tickets. John and I should have bought them, and we effed up.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
$200 deposit. I could have lost that $200 easily and not sweated it, if you know what I mean. No, I mean, they play Mahomes. I mean, I'm looking at this schedule going, Jesus, this could be great. If Cam would have signed with the Chargers, would be really good.
Don't they host both Green Bay and Kansas City?
Green Bay, Minnesota, Kansas City.
New Orleans, obviously.
Yeah. Their two duds are Carolina and the Chargers.
And obviously, one they can't do anything about.
Right, but those are their two dud games, if you will, because Atlanta's still solid. And I mean, it's a ridiculously good schedule.
It's summertime, so it's hot. Make sure you change your AC filters every month and have your air conditioner.
Oh, I got to call Pat. Oh, and the Rams. That's the other one.
Good morning, Mark.
Hi, Pat. How are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. How's everything down there?
You know, no one wearing masks, people yelling at one another. Same old crap.
Yeah. My wife's got to come out of there. She's got another week of rehab, then I'll get her out.
We had our poll question yesterday, Pat. Was just very simply, if you were told the only way for a football season is to start wearing a mask today, will you? Still at 16% of our audience say, no, I'm not wearing a mask.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise you or me.
No, but I mean, like the day we were for a while, we were all over the, would you wear it if you go to a game? Well, you're going to have to. That's not even it's not even a question.
Yep, and the players are moaning and groaning. I saw the prototype about a month ago for this full shield, and there's nothing wrong with it. And when J.J. Watt says he wouldn't play if he has to wear it, he'll wear it and play and they should make him wear it.
Here we go.
This is Miller and Moulton.
You're live.
Thanks for being with us. 26 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio, streaming millerandmoulton.com, broadcasting live on the Miller and Moulton YouTube and twitch.tv channels. The good, the bad, and the ugly coming up in a little more than 20 minutes time. It's our pleasure to catch up our weekly chat during the offseason with Pat Kerwin. He of CBS Sports' NFL Today show, Moving the Chains, weekday afternoons on NFL Radio. And Pat joins us once again, courtesy of Pinchers. From Tampa to Key West with 8 locations in Southwest Florida. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, how's upstate New York treating you these days?
Oh, good. Very good. And, just trying to figure out, it doesn't look like we're going on a camp tour, but we're going to have, they call it a virtual tour, it looks like. So I don't know how that's going to work. We are going to get a bunch of players to come on the show while we're featuring a team for the day. And so we'll see how it works out. And by the way, I'll be surprised if this season or the camps kick off on the date they think. I think it's going to get pushed back to like August 15th. There's such benefit to just watching how the other sports function. They're not even ready, and they haven't even finished negotiating. So I'd be leery that thinking this is going to start on time.
Well, and Pat, I'm glad you started there because I would like to go a little further on that. It certainly seems that they've had time, and we've talked, and Pat, you and I have talked on some other fronts about technology with getting players ready, and it sounded a month ago like they had an idea of what they're doing, and now I'm reading that the protocols aren't close. A couple of questions. What the hell have they been doing, and how close are they to having some sort of a system set up to start camp?
Well, I said it to you guys a month ago. These buildings aren't built for this, where they're going to hold camp. So no one built a team facility with the anticipation that one day they'd have to be all 6 feet apart. So the buildings themselves aren't up to code for what they have to do. And they're struggling to figure out how they're really going to do it. And in the meantime, the players are clearly getting more nervous by the day of putting themselves in this position. Now, we see them having chicken wing eating contests, the linemen, and that was probably a sign of maybe the irresponsibility level of young guys and how they're going to do it. But the clubs I know are trying to figure it out. That part of it, I'll tell you, like, okay, we're going to test 2,900 guys, 2,900 guys when they come to camp. Well, where are you doing that test? You're not doing that in the building. Guys are going to fail the test in the building. So you got to have all kinds of ways to do this. And Mark, you go at 10 o'clock. Dave, you go at 10:15. I go at 10:30. This should take all day to get 90 players and coaches tested. So there's a million things. And I think when you hear like Pagula say, every time we think we solved a point, we figure out there's 4 we just thought of. So they were naive to think that they'd have this all figured out. And then there's going to be a lot of trial and error. And then the union rep on each team is going to notify the union when he thinks they're, not within the rules of safety. So I think all this is going to come to an ugly head, and then they're going to have the reality check we have in football. And I said this to a head coach, and I said it on this show about 2 weeks ago. Bring 75 guys to camp. get 15 guys, low-level guys that pass and don't have the virus, and stash them in a hotel and use that as your little pool, because you're going to have guys failing every day. Don't release them. Don't cut them. Just, they're not making any money anyway, and put them in there and say, we're going to call you as we need you. And you might have to tap into that group of 15 for 5 guys right away. But the idea of bringing all 90 in is nuts to me, because you're subjecting all of them to failing. So I think they got to start being more creative, and I don't think every club has figured out how they're going to do it. But man, there's a lot of issues here, and I think the other sports are teaching something. The Major League Soccer stuff is really scary. You got teams that are canceling; they're in a bubble, and they're canceling. So solving all this theoretically in meetings is a bunch of BS. You're going to have to be able to adjust on a daily basis to how you're going to do things. And so I laugh at coaches that tell me that they have an install chart ready to go. So day 1, we're putting in this play, and day 2, hey, you got to be kidding me. You may miss day 3, 4, and 5. What are you going to do on day 6? Go back to day 3, of course. So flexibility is part of the answer, and they're not ready for it.
He's Pat Kerwin, CBS's NFL Today show, Moving the Chains, weekday afternoons on NFL Radio. And Pat joining us once again, courtesy of Pinchers. So let's just, how off base am I in saying, forget this whole July 27th stuff, that this becomes, say, Monday, August 10th, push it back 2 weeks, and we just eliminate the thought of preseason entirely. And then this way, everybody's got a month. The first game is scheduled to be September 10th, Houston at Kansas City. We bring everybody in by August 10th, because the other thing that August 10th allows you, it allows you to see NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball will have been playing for 3 weeks. And to me, Pat, I think the NFL has to be looking at Major League Baseball, because hockey and the NBA are trying to do a bubble. Major League Baseball's not. The NFL's not. The NFL, they're going to stay in their cities, and they're going to fly from city to city and play. Well, that's just how Major League Baseball is doing it. Don't you think if you're the NFL, you just want to sit back and watch the first couple of weeks of the Major League Baseball season and see whether or not they're pulling this sucker off?
Absolutely. I think you have no choice. The opportunity you have to see how that's working, if you don't take advantage of that and stubbornly march them in there on July 27th, I think you're making a mistake. So I'm with you 100%. And I think there's a lot of coaches. Sean Payton was the first one to say it. Let's just come in the middle of August and get ready for the season. Of course, the cynics go, well, he's got Breeze and he's got a veteran team.
He's got a veteran team ready to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I hear you.
Come on. He's making just sense out of this, of how to do it. And preseason games, get rid of those. I never liked them anyway. And colleges don't use preseason games to get ready, so the NFL doesn't really need to do it. And I don't want to hear about, we have to evaluate the players. You're really evaluating about 10 guys. That's it. Everyone else knows the rest of the roster. And if you don't know, you can look up the contracts. That'll tell you exactly who's on the team. So it is an interesting situation. So Bill Cowher's calling me right now. I'll call him after we're done, but he's probably wanting to talk about the same stuff. So if you hear my phone beeping, it's the coach.
If you want to just patch him out on a 3-way, we'll let the two of you have the conversation on air, Pat. David and I'll just finish our coffee. That's fine.
Right.
But I would be curious, when you talk to Bill or any of the other coaches, you said they're trying to put plans in. How pessimistic are these coaches? Because, Pat, you talk about it all the time. They only think football. That's all they're concerned with. Well, they have to be concerned with more, and they have to be concerned with whether or not they even have practice. What's the level of concern that you're getting off the record from these guys?
Well, they have the challenge of preparing a football team. That's your point, Mark. And they don't know if they're going to have adequate time, facilities, and personnel to do that. The linemen, would it shock you guys if on any given Wednesday in the next month or so, 5 linemen get COVID? I mean, those guys are on top of each other all the time. So I think that their anxiety, most coaches say like, well, it's a level playing field. And I always laugh. And I said, no, it's not. But if that helps you sleep at night, keep saying it to yourself. It's a level playing field. It's a level playing field. It's not. You got a veteran quarterback like Breeze and those kind of guys, you're going to be way ahead of these other teams. how about a guy like in Pantherland? We were doing the Carolina secondary yesterday. They're going to probably have to play 2 rookies as starters. They got a coach who's never really been an NFL coach. He's a little part-timer at the Giants, but those kind of guys are in a lot of trouble. But the Sean Paytons of the world and the Pete Carroll and Belichick, they'll be able to function, but they don't know how many players they're going to have. I also think, and I said this on this show before, they better be thinking split sessions. Don't go out there with 90 guys, or in my case, 75. Go out there with 35, have practice for an hour and a half, watch that practice, take the B team out at noontime and have them go for an hour and a half, keeping these guys apart from each other. And if someone down in the B squad looks real good, move them up to the morning practice. And if someone in the morning looks terrible, move them down. But I think you got to spread this out. A lot of these teams have a bubble. So on a rainy day, they got one 100-yard bubble. You can't put 90 guys in there and have practice. So get used to having split sessions. That'd be the first thing I said to guys. I said, you guys never taught school. If you taught school, and David should remember this when Jersey was sprouting up after World War II and schools were being built all over, but they were small, so the schools were on split sessions all over this country, and people learned how to live that way. And I think the NFL better be thinking about split sessions.
Absolutely. When I first started going to grade school, I went mornings.
Yeah.
And then it was like a shift at a factory. You'd see the morning crew, we'd be leaving midday, and we'd see the afternoon crew of kids that are waiting to come in. The buses having dropped kids off, and then we'd get on those buses and head right back home. Pat, tomorrow's a day that was supposed to create some sort of activity. Is anything going to happen between today and tomorrow in terms of certain guys that are up against it from a franchise tag standpoint? Dak being the most high profile, but isn't tomorrow, you remember the guy who played for the Giants last year who had double-digit sacks and they played hardball with him, and doesn't he have to sign with somebody else, or he's back with the Giants as of tomorrow? I mean, do you expect any Golden, I think is his name. Do you expect movement in the next 24 hours? Because we haven't had real player movement in the NFL in well over a month.
Well, everyone knows that time is a great piece to the equation of negotiations, and now we're up against the clock, which is always good. I never thought we'd get many of them signed. We got a lot of reasons why they won't. First off, I don't think every club wants to sign their player to a long-term deal. I think they're very happy in the case of maybe even the running back down in Tennessee, just play on the tag. And, why would I get into a 6-year deal with you and you're a power back and you're heavy workload? 2 years of the franchise tag and maybe we'll say goodbye. But I do think maybe Simmons will sign. And I always thought Chris Jones, they'd get a deal done with Chris. He had a $16 million cap charge. You could easily put a deal together that actually would give you a little space. But I don't think past those two guys, maybe Dak, but of course I love when they say they haven't been talking and there are no plans to talk. Well, that ends when the phone rings. And so I don't think they were that far apart, really. We weren't talking about trying to pay him 20 when he wanted 40. It wasn't any of those kind of things. So I would say at the most, David, today and early tomorrow morning, maybe 2 guys. 3 would be a big success story, but there's a lot of reasons not to do it yet. And, there was ample time for some of these guys to get a deal done. Leonard, I wouldn't sign Leonard to a long-term deal over the Giants. Would you? I wouldn't.
No, well, I can't believe they picked him up for this year, quite frankly.
Yeah, well, they gave away enough compensation and they had the cap space to do it. And so they locked him up for a year, and we'll see where it goes from there. But nothing makes me laugh harder than when I hear, well, we're going to spend the year evaluating him. You don't know Leonard Russell? You need to coach him for another year to know what he does? He's a good player. Is he a great player? No. He's a good player. So you play him on the tag for a year, and if he's the same guy, which I suspect he will be, you say goodbye to him. So next year's cap thing is going to be ridiculously bad. And so with this I love when the players go, we'd like you to spread it out over 10 years, whatever losses we have. That's precluding there's not another pandemic or another problem. So you can't keep pushing things to the future. They're going to have to eat part of this next year. And I think we can safely say the cap will not be going up next year. And there's not one contract negotiator / cap guy that's worked in an environment where the cap went down. Not one of them. So they're all going to learn the ugly truth about when you don't get a 10% raise every year. How do you handle the cap? We'll see a bunch of players. And that's why I wouldn't sign these franchise guys to long-term deals.
Pat, how much time do you think we have? You've mentioned you don't think camp will start. We've talked on this show a lot the past couple of days of what the Big Ten and the Pac-12 did. The SEC has sat here and said, we're going to wait. The NHL sat and said, we're going to wait and pick our cities. And right now the NHL looks the smartest of the leagues starting up because, well, they're going to Canada and the problems aren't as bad there. Waiting seems to be the smartest choice right now before making any rash decisions. But just how long can the NFL wait before they start giving us some dates?
I don't think they're just trying to get it to work. And so I think if you talk too soon, you say stupid things. They haven't figured out all this, and they've got about 5 or 6 days before the reality of, 10 days from now, players are starting to show up. And so you're going to have to say something before they're jumping on planes and trying to come up to whatever city they're going to. So I'd say about 5, 6 days, and they'll make an announcement. I don't think they should start on time. I really would be opposed to that. And I think there's enough coaches, although coaches don't have a vote. I think the GMs, Mike Bidwell gets COVID when he's up in Newport, Rhode Island. That'll be an interesting guy talking to the other owners. And maybe he got the first real personal wake-up call about what it could be like if a bunch of my players are involved in having this. So there's a million things they have to solve. And then the pressure in the communities about how much of the testing they're going to take up. Remember, the NFL is classified non-essential. So they don't have the clout they think they have okay, move over. We're going to take all the testing today. And Quest Diagnostics has been telling them that, we may not be able to turn around. And we've already had a couple sports. They couldn't get the data back in time to have practice.
Baseball has had as many as 8 days go by where they've been unable to get test results back. And there are quite a few teams, Pat, that have basically forgone what Major League Baseball has set up and made their own private deals with testing companies. And they basically told Major League Baseball, we'll keep our mouth shut if you don't complain about us. And they're doing their own testing thing outside of Major League Baseball because what Major League Baseball set up, they have deemed to be totally inadequate.
Yeah, and I do think that's probably why colleges won't play football this year, if you think about that. The NFL has the resources. Camp is going to be a problem. If you're going to test 110, 120 people every day or every other day, and the players are not going to let you get away with not testing them all the time. You'll hear Richard Sherman screaming like crazy, and rightfully so. They're not going to let you, cut corners in order to keep practicing. So I think those are the kind of issues that are the hurdles in front of them, and they're real hurdles, and it's not getting easier. It looks like it's getting harder. If you just take Texas and Florida and California, just count up the teams in those 3 states.
Well, how many Donovan Smiths do you think there'll be? I mean, he's been pretty public. He's the left tackle for the Bucs, to those that don't know, and he's a veteran. He's like 34. And Donovan has just said, I don't feel comfortable about playing this year. And the Bucs don't have anybody on the roster to replace him with either. Now, in theory, if he opts out, I think maybe, and that's the other thing, Pat, I don't know what the salary cap ramifications are. If a player opts out, does that money go off your books? Can they go replace him with Jason Peters, or are they SOL? I mean, and I think Donovan Smith's not going to be the only player in his 30s that goes, I don't feel real comfortable about this.
No, I think any of the guys that have a lot of money in the bank that have families are going to be thinking long and hard about doing this. The young guys will do it. I talked to Darryl Green yesterday, the great Darryl Green. And Darryl, I said, if you were playing today, would you play? He said, no, wouldn't happen. I said, have you been talking to players? He goes, yeah, I talked to some of the guys. I said, if they asked you, what would you tell them? He said, I'd tell them, be really careful. I don't know if I'd do it if I were you. I think the guys that have made a lot of money, that have families, are the profile of the guys that are going to say, no, I'm not doing it. But to your point about signing Jason Peters, look, if the tackle over in Tampa says I'm not playing, that doesn't put him on the reserve retired list. And by the way, he could just walk in the next day and say, hey, looks like you cleaned up your act here and it looks safe. He might just be waiting to see what the first month looks like and then want to play. And they probably would be welcoming him back anyway. So yeah, I think you're going to get a bunch of guys that are going to do that. And they're not going to want to go in until they're convinced that what you're doing is safe. And on the other side of that, you might get guys that go in and look around and see, you know, if the three of us go into camp, we're the best of friends, and tomorrow two of us get the virus. What do you think the third guy's doing? Going to practice or going home?
You know, Pat, I stumbled on something as you were giving that answer. We all remember back Strahan's last year when he didn't show up in camp and how much that affected how well he played. I mean, one of the worst years he's ever had. And we kind of wondered how much that set training camp back. Pat, I think you're onto something here. Because if I can simply say, hey, I am scared of COVID, I don't really feel safe coming to training camp, I might be able to just miss training camp and not have to worry about any fines coming my way.
Right. Well, there are going to be a lot of grievances filed, and that's what the one subject we should focus on. So when the players start filing grievances about safety in the workplace, they might go in and on the first day say, hey, we were on line for a physical and we weren't 6 feet apart. And I saw an equipment guy with no mask on, or, you know, whatever. And they file a grievance, and that gets them out of, they're sitting at home waiting for the arbitrator. Can you imagine the arbitrator shutting some teams down because they didn't follow protocol? I mean, all those things are possible. But I worry, if I were in the front office, my number one fear would be the grievance filing for safety in the workplace.
He's Pat Kerwin, CBS NFL Today Show. Moving the chains weekday afternoons with his co-host Jim Miller. And Pat joins us twice a week during the season, once a week during the off season, which gets shorter and shorter these days. And he does so courtesy of Pinchers from Tampa to Key West and many points in between, with 8 locations in Southwest Florida. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, all the best to you and your family. Stay safe. Be well. We look forward to next week.
I think I might be down there soon. My wife is not ready. She's not ready yet to come back from her own knee rehab stuff. So when she says she's ready, then I'll go get her. It'll be that.
All right.
All right, Pat. We'll talk soon.
Be good.
Well.
Take care, man.
Pat Kerwin, kind enough to join us here on Miller and Moulton. Do love all the different, and we began the show by talking about this show sometimes being an English muffin. That we can really slice the onion. We can really get nooks and crannies-ish. And Pat can get pretty nooks and crannies. And all the things as the former front office guy that he thinks about. And you realize just how hard this is going to be. For as much as just about everybody listening really wants there to be football. And some of us have an economic reason to really want there to be football. But it's going to be hard.
By the way, you know, through all of that, Pat, let one sentence fly out. You want to talk about the 3 seconds? That's why I don't think there's going to be college football this year.
Right.
I mean, through all the NFL stuff that Pat says and a lot of great information, that was a sentence that he just said.
Well, and Greg Sankey said it yesterday, all right, that the number one thing facing us right now is the ability to test. Miller and Moulton, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to wrap up this Tuesday edition. Thanks so much to be with us, Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio.
Welcome to the program. This is the Dan Patrick Show.
Yeah, no kidding, Tom.
Positive signs that Kaepernick could
No kidding.
in the league soon.
Hey, Maddie, are you in your room?
Hey, do we want Colin Kaepernick? Do we think we can?
Can you bring my wallet upstairs, please?
Talk to him. Why are we talking?
Will you bring my wallet upstairs?
How about we just talk to him, Colin? It's the Baltimore Ravens.
Will you bring my wallet, the thing that has money in it, upstairs? Thank you.
Southwest Florida's Fox Sports Radio and FoxSportsFM.com.
Let's face it, these are stressful times.
I mean, I've got her doing stairs. She vacuums stairs and vacuums the, she did all the baseboards this week. Got this kid trained. It's the only thing good about if there's, if we're doing homeschooling. Got to find my Spanish tutor again. She'll be giving both of us lessons, but other than that, I will probably dismiss the house cleaning and just kick the feet up and let the daughter do it. I'm guessing probably by 12 that they're done listening to me, but right now, this is great. No, I'm not buying you pizza. I have to renew something, and they need my driver's license photo. But I almost tried that Francesco's. Come on in, sweetie. Yep. Thank you. I almost tried that Francesco's that you guys were talking about. That's not too far away from me. That is, I probably need to figure out what I'm doing for good, bad, and ugly. What do you got for me, Giro? Where's the... Come on.
And a great businessman. Look, you're going to love Stadium Dry Cleaners. They have discounts for our first responders and seniors. They have multiple locations near Publix at Daniels Crossing in Fort Myers, the Gateway Trade Center in Fort Myers, and the Elegant Image Dry Cleaners next to Walgreens on Del Prado in Cape Coral. They are Lee County's leading dry cleaner since 1988. With 30 years of experience in Lee County, I'm telling you, I trust my family's dry cleaning to Larry and the team at Stadium Dry Cleaners. So will you visit them? Visit stadiumdrycleaners.com and look for their monthly specials for great savings.
So I sent Drew Steele a text. I don't know if you received it, but I received last week a negative ad, if you will, in the mail going after Byron Donalds.
Yeah.
And it was from an independent group. It wasn't from the Ascar campaign.
Yeah, I got one as well about that he's a criminal or whatever.
Right. He's a bum.
Yeah, I got that one too.
It's basically what the two-sided thing said. So I took a couple pictures and sent them to Drew and said, hey, here's the group. Here's their name. Here's their address. I go, you can probably call them and get somebody on the air. Of course, I don't think he did anything with it, but
try the new spicy Western bacon cheeseburger at Hardee's.
Yeah.
When is election day around here?
August
Primary.
17th, maybe?
God, it's not till August? Oh, jeez. Gotta watch these TV ads for another 5 weeks.
David, don't even get me started, because they are just... Well, I don't even watch television anymore. I could get rid of all of it. I don't even like watching news anymore. It's just annoying.
Looking for a frameless shower door? My Shower Door has just opened their 8th Florida showroom, and it's conveniently located in Cape Coral. With more than 75,000 frameless shower doors installed, no one has more experience and 5-star reviews than My Shower Door. We've been named #1 by readers of the News Press and Naples News for 17
Heckle Hyde there. They're on YouTube now too.
What's that?
Yeah, Heckle Hyde saying that
the ads
are now on YouTube.
Yeah, of course they are.
The worst thing that ever happened to anybody ever.
Prepare yourself.
Oh, crud.
This is Mark Miller's Good, Bad, and Ugly on Fox Sports Radio.
You're live.
Well, let's start with beer. I mean, let's be honest. It's what we need these days. An Illinois brewery is back open after the coronavirus kept its doors closed for months, and their landlord helped make it happen. Tammy and Chris Ron, owners of Suburban German Brewing Company in Waterloo, have been struggling with the pandemic and virtual tastings and a yard sale, but they asked their landlord to let them delay paying rent, but decided against it. And they were blown away when the landlord said, yeah, here's 3 months rent back. So more beer for everybody.
That's awesome.
For the bad, we go to Cape Coral, where, well, a Cape Coral woman is in trouble because or I'm sorry, this is Charlotte County. I apologize to Cape Coral. Charlotte County. We'll get to Cape Coral in a second. An Inglewood woman was arrested after breaking into her neighbor's pool several times to go skinny dipping over the weekend. On Friday, deputies responded to the home to report of a burglary after the owner reported his pool cage was cut open. Deputies collected cigarettes, keys, women's underwear, and a steak knife left behind at the pool. Then on Saturday, while the homeowner was in Canada, she struck again. This time, the owner watched in the act as the woman went skinny dipping in the pool. And if you look at the woman, you quit wondering why police were called so quickly. Finally, the ugly. We go to the Cape, where a Cape Coral man who used to work for the school department, doesn't anymore, not because of this, but Patrick Galliana was arrested. He was in the Gather restaurant on Silver King Boulevard, and where he decided to spit at one of the employees and then slapped him on the butt. Apparently they knew one another, but the attack was unprovoked. He is facing a battery charge for spatting on the employee. Love when we can keep everything nice and local.
Can't spit on people.
No.
Right? It's never appropriate.
That is the good, the bad, and the ugly. On today, July the 14th, this is 2020.
Boy, is it ever. Boy, is it ever. Well, we had a big news day yesterday. You know, the Redskins had their presser. You had the SEC meetings. I mean, you even had Tony Stewart and Ray Everham, announce their little racing series that they're coming up with, which is like the dirt track and asphalt track version of IROC, I guess. And it's going to be televised on CBS. You had a lot of news yesterday. We're going to get anything today. Speaking of it, did you see the pairings for the memorial?
Tiger, Koepka, and Rory?
I mean, if you're into golf, let me tell you, they are going to take care of you on Thursday and Friday. There will always be like 3 marquee groups on the internet or on your TV for the first couple of rounds of the memorial.
It's terrific. It
Yes, it
really is. Tiger's return to golf after the pandemic starts at the memorial on Thursday. Dan Patrick's show is next. We'll do this all over again tomorrow morning, right here. Miller and Moulton on Fox Sports Radio.
We've got our good friend Tim Meister, owner of the Four Meisters.
All right.
All right, so you guys
I got to
go
go.
on
I got
today.
some work on my house, and they'll be here. In fact, they're here.